Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have got the Stellaris Megacorp expansion with us. This will also mean that we will be playing the Login patch. I don't know if it's Login or Liguin. I'm going to rely on people who understand literature better than me. And one thing, you know, the Stellaris Twitter has actually done a really good job of this. Hello, K5. I think you are really going to like this. And I am very much looking forward to playing this with you in the future. Hello, Domi. How are you doing? So the sharp-eyed amongst you may have noticed that there is an account that I have been retweeting recently, and it has been building up to this moment. Yeah, I apologize, Domi. I knew I was going to be late, but if my voice sounds a little rough, it's because I was actually quite sick. I don't quite know why that was, but I needed to deal with that. I had something wonderful that happened to me today too, but I will save that for the game because I'd actually like to run in. By the way, so the fix to this gray border apparently involves reinstalling the game, but and I'm a little too lazy to do that. So if you have a copy of Stellaris, it will probably not look like this, but. Paradox has been doing some really impressive stuff with the expansions. They're really doing a lot to the game. Now, I will let you know that Megacorp is not out yet, or Megacorps. There's obviously more than one. Hey, that's wonderful to hear, Domi. Because this isn't out yet, this DLC will be available on the 6th of December, so not too long now. But as is always the case with these sorts of things, I have not played a lot. I sort of did enough to make sure that things would be working and sort of find my feet. I would really like to do the new tutorial, but we're going to go jumping in head first right now. But some of the stuff that they have added inside of this really gets my imagination going. And I think there are some really interesting ideas behind this. And I have a feeling that a lot of you already know a lot of the things that I'm excited by because you read the developer diaries a lot closer than I do. So we'll just read the introduction and then we'll go into species creation. If you are looking for gameplay, we're probably going to be an hour away from that. And so especially if you're watching on a VOD, you get the option to fast forward. If you're here to see gameplay for Stellaris Megacorps, perhaps stop by again in an hour. Because I do consider species creation to be part of the experience, and it is one of the most favorable, one of the most favorable parts of the experience, in my opinion. And Freighter 5, great to see you. You are among friends here. So, greetings. Stellaris has, once again, undergone bold changes. In 2.2, the focus of the changes has been to rework how you develop planets and to deepen the game's economy. Which obviously I'm excited about. The purpose is to make the management of planets more fun and engaging. Tiles are gone, and they have been replaced with districts, buildings, and jobs. You will now instead construct city districts, farming districts, mining districts, and generator districts, as well as various buildings with more specialized roles. Districts and buildings provide jobs, and a job worked by a pop will produce resources. As a planet gains more pops, it will unlock more building slots. Buildings work similar to how they did before, but now most of them provide jobs instead of producing resources directly. 2.2 also introduces a new trade route system. What you essentially want to do is collect trade value, found in space and produced on planets, by upgrading a nearby starbase. You should then set up a trade route feeding back to your home system. Trade value is converted into usable resources when it reaches your trade capital. We recommend that you take a look at the updated tutorial. Due to the size and scope of the changes, saved games from previous versions will not be compatible with version 2.2. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Stellaris, this is always true about patches, and this is generally true for any Paradox game. If you wish to continue your old save in version 2.2, follow the forum link below and read the thread, quote, how to revert Stellaris to a previous version. It is actually very straightforward to do so, and for those of you who are watching our Verona playthrough, let's get rid of these guys. So, one thing I'm quickly going to do, oh, wonderful to hear, Freighter 5. I don't believe I've ever really been given instructions to, sell this many copies. But obviously, if I'm given a key for something ahead of time, I kind of like to make sure that people are getting value out of it. So, knowing that somebody actually wound up buying something due to the stream kind of makes me happy. But yeah, Domi, well, this will be, I think, one Paradox game at a time. But I like this one quite a bit. So let me just take a quick second here. Because I want the possibility of some of the species that I've created before, we're actually going to make some adjustments. So in this case, this is the corporate dominion ethic, and I believe in this case here, your current design contains errors or uses features from disabled DLCs that must be resolved before continuing. So I believe what's happening here is that some of these things used to be... so Megacorps used to not be formally modeled inside the game, and now it is. So in this case, corporate dominion, because I have the Megacorp DLC enabled, I am no longer able to have corporate dominion. So this won't work. This won't work. So let's just get rid of corporate dominion. I don't even think it's an option in the menu anymore. Yeah, so we'll go here. I will cover all of these things before. So we said free traders, and they were a little mineral focused. So let's see if there's any kind of mineral oriented. I mean, private prospectors might work for this. I kind of remember roughly. The thing is, I don't want to spend too... Yeah, we'll make them private prospectors. So I'm not going to spend too much time... Oops. I'm not going to spend too much time working on these adjustments because I am actually going to create a brand new species. But like I said, I just want to make sure that I update some of these... I want to make sure that I update some of these so that they're possible species that we run into. Anything that I've created before should... Okay, so fleeting has turned them into... So I think the best thing that I can do is gain another negative trait. I think weak might be a way that I can do this. Slow breeders doesn't make sense for these guys, so... And I would normally want to go over the history of all of these ones, but I think this will be a little more fun if I actually... I think this will be a little more fun if I actually just go into the creation of the proper species, so... can you do full communism? You absolutely can, Freighter 5, although full communism is not a... So you cannot have full communism and be a megacorp. So if you want to do crime, you would have to be a megacorp, but proper communism is now enabled inside the game, so... Oh, sorry, I didn't see the thing before. So yes, it is full communism or crime, not full communism and crime. Mind you, there is a way you can sort of model it, so... Okay, so slaver guilds and syncretic evolution apparently are not available to the Blessed Alari Grand Duchy anymore. Oh, well, apparently syncretic evolution is. I mean, they were sort of based on... They were sort of based on this idea. Captain Shield, thank you very much for the host. I could definitely see an Imperial cult for these guys. I can sort of see merchant guilds because they... well, they're not really a proper... You know, these guys... These guys really did vassalize everyone, so retroactively I'm going to make feudal society line up with the way I actually played that one. That's the first time I've done this, but I should do that more often. I don't think I ever actually got to play the Otaga. So they must have got rid of the... They're very open-minded, so I think I'm going to make them deviant. And then... These were the guys I was actually going to play in a multiplayer game with... with K5. Oh, awesome, Freighter 5. Yeah, sorry, I know this is a little dry, guys. I'm actually just trying to clear out some things that I had set up before. Hang on, you can have... Oh, you can't have syncretic evolution, that's why. Okay, that makes sense. You know, technocracy sounds kind of appropriate for these guys. I actually think this is really appropriate for these guys. So there'll be a science directorate now instead of a megacorp. Okay, so here we go. We are going to be making new species, and for those of you who have not seen it, we have... So first of all, we need to create this empire name right away, and this is... Oh boy. Actually, they will just be referred to as corporate. I hope this works. Okay, so for those of you who don't know about it, at www.twitter.com/Rhizome Capital, there is going to be a companion Twitter account, and I'm actually going to open this up for you guys so you can see it here. Oops, Stellaris is apparently covering my monitor. There we go. So this is the website for Rhizome Capital. I'm not going to tell you how often it's going to tweet, but this will occasionally react to things that happen in the game. It might give little hints about what's going to happen inside the playthrough, and I do have intentions to make things develop over time. There are going to be some sort of special events that come up, and I want this playthrough to start sort of adjusting based on certain events that happen inside the game. So there will be there are basically going to be some specific ideas that I have for I don't know how this is going to go, but I did my big special announcement for tonight is this stream. Obviously, I've been given a press key from Paradox, and so I thank them very much for that. But I've actually opened up a formal sponsorship arrangement with Rhizome Capital and their their mission to fill the galaxy with the finest goods and services known to whatever species you may be a member of. And here are those lovely little plant bankers as they are. Unfortunately, I didn't really think of what the species name might be, and I really don't want to... I can sort of do this, but I need to come up with a proper name for the species, and I'd prefer... I'd prefer not to go for the default ones, because normally I do this because I'm not creative, but we'll come up with a name for the species a little bit later. We will, however, choose the one of the 4 plantoid. By the way, the plantoid is a separate DLC. It's basically just a purely cosmetic one, but I mean, how can you play Megacorps and not at least do one batch of plant bankers, right? So we can go trunk of bow, rhizome of red, trunk of yaximon. We might be able to do better. RCS? Not a bad idea. I was also thinking... Oh, nice one. I was actually going to refer... I had a different name for them, but I actually rather like that name. I'm just kind of taking a quick look at what some of the names here are under ship names and leader names. Plantoid 2 definitely is... Ooh. So 1, 2, and 3 are definitely my preferences. Hazel Hawthorn is a wonderful name for a plant. Yeah, you know what? This is the best. I think this is the best for my corporate plants. So, we've got some new traits. So, part of this is going to stem from the new rules. So you'll notice here we've got ingenious. Members of the species are good at thinking outside the box and know how to maximize the efficiency of their infrastructure and power grids. So, you'll also notice that these are sort of percent-based. So we've got 15% energy credits from a specific type of job. And this is a little bit different from the previous one that you might have associated with... I'm sorry. I did originally want to leave them to the Twitter account, but some of this is low-hanging fruit. Some of you may remember Thrifty as the one that you associated with energy credits. That is actually now switched to trade value. So members of the species are instinctively economical and are always looking to make a good profit, whatever corners need cutting. So I actually want to go for both of these, even if it means that I'm going to have some fairly heavy negatives. I mean, I could kind of say, well, you know, they're intelligent instead of ingenious. No, these people are good at what they do. I think what I might say is that they're non-adaptive. I can sort of see this working for these specific plant creatures, that they grew up on their home world, they're very comfortable in their home world, they're okay at working out their they're very good at working out their you know, their trading arrangements and that. But the other thing that I could do, so I don't like the idea of repugnant. If anything, I actually want them to be charismatic, but I don't think there's going to be a way I can make that work and still have everything balance out. Slow breed. So the two that I think are either slow breeders or non-adaptive, and the reason I don't like slow breeders is that we're making so many we're making so many claims about high growth that you can't really turn around and say that these plant people are not growing, right? Growth across all dimensions is very important. So of course I can go for, you know, two. I could say fleeting, wasteful. Oh, they're a big corporation, you know, obviously they'll be wasteful. But I don't, you know, that's a little too easy. You can always also go for deviant. You know, like there's a few that you can sort of justify if you really want, but I am kind of inclined towards saying, you know what, I think probably non-adaptive. Hello, the Eyes of Sin. How are you doing? I think non-adaptive is probably the best that I can go for here. So, and because charismatic is 2, I think we're just going to say they're ingenious and thrifty, and the charisma is a function. It is the reason why they brought me, System Chalk, your friendly neighborhood Stellaris streamer, into the fold in order to be the public face of the operation. So, and Freighter 5 got it right, you know, the soil on this planet has 5% less nitrogen. I like, so gross. You're probably not going to be here if Chalk gets a game over, so someone please tell me, please someone send you reap what you sow here. Oh, God, I'm glad everybody's getting in on this one. The leaves are always greener on the other side of the fence. By the way, Eyes of Sin has top tier plant puns. Hello, Kintara. It is Megacorp. And we're taking our time. So usually the first hour of a new Stellaris patch is creating a special species. I've got most of the ideas behind this thing already here, but I do need to write a backstory, and I need to work out a few details in terms of how this stuff works. So, and I think this one I'm a little more open to suggestion because I sort of know roughly where I want to go with these things. So, I'm tempted to call. So, I'm debating. You know what? I'm actually going to call the planet Rhizome Capital as well, and nah, that's a little too on the nose. I'm just trying to think if there's anything. Anything I can do with a star name. I mean, there's obviously the star and the plants are kind of a big deal, but oh, hang on. Yeah, the planet's getting called Rhizome Capital as well. The corporation, when it grew large enough, they just bought the planet outright. Who do they pay? Who knows? Oh, I know. Every single member of the species is a stakeholder now. That might be one of the stories that we tell. Oh, the planet. Sorry, I didn't even see that. That's that's great. Just one second here. I had a couple of notes that I wrote down for some idea. So I've been queuing up some tweets. You vote for the plantent? It's tempting. I just think the homeworld name should actually be named. I think it's either headquarters or Rhizome Capital itself. I would completely understand. I will refer to the planets as plantets, but it won't be. I don't think I'll name the homeworld that. Where did my... You know what? We're going to call this the equity system. Nicely done, Freighter 5. I was curious if somebody would quote network. That is a solid reference right there. All right. As promised, we are going to be a megacorp. Now, one of the things that I like quite a bit is you have more than one megacorp. So again, in the base game, if you don't own the megacorp expansion, you still have democracies, plutocracies, dictatorships, and empires. And then, of course, if you choose Gestalt consciousness and you have either Synthetic Dawn or Utopia, you can play Hive Minds or Machine Intelligence. And what a corporate authority gives you. In this case, corporate governments are organized as a massive commercial enterprise that has completely supplanted the role of the state. So the features of this holds an election every 20 years to select a new ruler. Empire modifier, you gain administrative caps, so we'll have to get into the game to see what that actually does. And then there's a penalty to empire size, so in theory these things should be smaller than others. So again, the big thing on these kinds of playthroughs are to focus on an idea rather than trying to min-max all of the different traits. But what I do want to draw to your attention, so as some of you know, there's the criminal heritage. This is kind of fun, and this explains a little bit about what the Megacorp sort of civics do. And in this case, this megacorporation can trace its origins back to a crime syndicate that eventually grew powerful enough to supplant all forms of local government. Effects cannot form commercial pacts, cannot join federations, can build branch offices on the planet of any regular empire that they have no war or active truce with. Crime on branch office planets increases branch office value and can build special crime-increasing corporate buildings. So these guys sort of wind up being parasites on the planet. That's a fun one. And if you are spiritualist, I thought this was a stroke of genius. You can make a mega church. This government is an oligarchy based on a curious blend of commercial and spiritualistic values in which the positions of an ordained minister and corporate officer have merged into a single role. And if you guys have not seen the tweet that I put out and specifically CC'd Alexis Kennedy on, if you combine it with criminal heritage, you get a subversive cult. This government is structured like a religious cult that relies on a variety of criminal and corporate enterprises to sustain itself. I'm not going to show you, so I encourage you guys to check out that tweet to see what I made. It's the latest image on Twitter, but I am extremely proud of that creation. All right, but anyways, if you take a look at the Rhizome Capital Twitter, clearly, the one thing that you can rely on is brand loyalty. This mega corporation has fostered a great sense of brand loyalty among its internal consumer base. Its catchy corporate slogans can be recited by nearly everyone. Brand loyalty is 100% a start for my plant bankers. The next thing I was thinking of originally was to say that they are free traders. So in this case, the trading fleets of this mega corporation are bolstered by semi-independent free traders operating under license, which will boost trade value and branch office value. The catch is that they get transformed into a trade league, and this is simply not what Rhizome Capital is. This government is a form of plutocratic oligarchy where the state is made up of a myriad of free merchants, corporations, and guilds that have banded together in common commercial interests. And that is not what Rhizome Capital is. Rhizome Capital is a bunch of hardworking plant bankers who made some very wise investments and continued to gain the trust and loyalty of the people. And as a result of their good work, got increasing authority and were given increasing responsibilities and have guided this planet and indeed soon the galaxy to the right path. So This is... I love that, Domi. I like that you guys are having fun with this idea. So we will not be free traders, even though I think it's appropriate and sort of in line with what I wanted to do. So if I want, I can try and get some of these hidden ones. I don't want to make a mega church, so Gospel of the Masses is out. There's indentured assets. This mega corporation specializes in large indentured workforces. It has little to do with the barbaric practice of slavery. These workers are merely paying off their debts indefinitely. We could be naval contractors. We basically get militarist going on here. So private military company or naval contractor. If we are authoritarian, then we would do indentured assets here. And that would be it. So, I mean, you could sort of argue, I mean, most people certainly do not consider, most people do not consider corporations, oh, you can't be fanatic authoritarian. Interesting. I don't think most people would associate corporations with democracy, but I'm not immediately saying that I have to be authoritarian. Although they do get a bonus to worker output, so I might change my mind about that. Specialist outputs go up at 5% in egalitarian, though. All right, I need to think a little bit about... that. So one of the things we might want to do when thinking about this sort of this group of, this is kind of like the Amazon of plants, really. There's a couple of ways you can go. You can sort of go by elimination. So we know we won't do criminal heritage, and we know we won't do free traders because that'll turn me into a trading league. One of the things that's left over is the possibility of franchising. So this mega corporation relies heavily on franchising. Subsidiaries share a greater cut of the profits with their corporate overlord in exchange for a license to market their goods under established brands. Private prospectors might work. Ruthless competition. Trading posts, I'm a little less clear on. So I think sort of, especially given the fact there's a dedicated Twitter account, I can sort of see media conglomerate before branching into other fields. This mega corporation began its rise to fortune as a media conglomerate. Well, it didn't begin as a media conglomerate. So I think in this case, we'll actually go for franchising, even though I'm less clear on it. So the effects of subsidiary subject power on relations is reduced by 33%, and the impact of branch office on our empire size is decreased by 25%. Ruthless competition, so I can't remember the equivalent. I think it's like shadow government or something like that. But anyways, it gives you bonus to your leader lever cap and experience gain. Wait a minute, no, shadow government doesn't do that. There's like an elite class or something like that. Anyways, it's the corporate version of whatever one gives you the bonus to your leaders. But in this case, I think brand loyalty and franchising are very much consistent with these with what Rhizome Capital stands for in that Twitter account. I also think it's very fair to say that these guys are xenophiles. If they're anything, they're xenophiles. It is actually a little tempting to go for fanatic xenophiles. So if there was ever such a thing as an absolute moral imperative, it would be to explore the cosmos and embrace all within it. We were never meant to journey alone. Yeah, well, Bodgers, this is less about answering what the mechanics are doing so much as trying to do something. Like, so it's not that I'm reading this and I'm going, oh my god, like, I don't understand a word of this. The idea more is to try and find what is appropriate for the species that I have in mind. So even though there's going to be things that I'm picking here which are not, like, I may not actually want to go to war with someone, given the fact that I think the one that I wanted, which is free traders, will turn this into an entity that I don't have in mind. I am willing to choose something that's ultimately wasted in the name of playing something that's a little bit more, that's a little more on brand, let's say. I'm also inclined to say that they are egalitarian, so there's a strong board of directors behind Rhizome Capital. I havered a bit on this. So what I do like is that both sort of both senses of power. In this case, you get a bonus to monthly influence, or you get a bonus to faction influence. And you'll notice here that there's specialist outputs and worker outputs. That'll be apparent once you start seeing the individual pops. But what's kind of neat behind these is that I like the fact that in addition, so, you know, authoritarian once upon a time was really popular because of how important influence was. I actually think there's a fairly good, if you want to try and min-max, I actually think the sort of the refined products that specialists produce will make egalitarian maybe a little bit more appealing to people. But I was also sort of thinking a little bit of this idea that there's going to be, this is more so for the future of that Twitter account, but as we sort of blow up over time, the number of different product lines and subsidiaries is going to blow up over time on that Twitter account. So I sort of like this idea of, I think it's a little bit easier to sort of justify in an egalitarian sense than coming from the dictates of the plant CEO. So, and if you don't like it, fight me. So the last question is, what do I do next? So I can choose, out of the remaining choices, I can either go fanatic on one of these. I don't think I can go fanatic egalitarian because I have to be democratic. But I could do fanatic xenophile. I could abandon egalitarian. I could go militarist or fanatic militarist. I could go pacifist, fanatic pacifist. I could go spiritual or materialist. And I think, honestly, the easy answer here is that we are focusing a lot on the production of material goods. Even before the embargo was lifted for this game, the plants were already running at full capacity. So I think materialist is a perfectly fair... materialist is a perfectly fair statement. This is actually also, you'll notice, probably the first time that I've done 3 light ones rather than going heavy on, going fanatical about one of the sides. So again, I know there will be a group of people who just lose their mind over seeing suboptimal play, but I'm gonna be stuck with this for several playthroughs, so I got to play something I think is fun. All right. So, I do have to share with you, does the Rhizome CEO need to hire someone to be the voice of their friendly and helpful advertisements? I don't know. I was thinking of hiring someone to do that, the Eyes of Sin. Do you have anyone in mind? How do we feel about freedom? It's all right. All right, I will let you guys hear. Obviously, part of this is to let you all see Megacorp ahead of time. So we've got some new audio.
Workers of the galaxy, unite. You have the springs of cooperation flow most abundant. Those who need will receive. Those who make will make wonders. Automation, open access, shared wealth. With these we shall unite the stars in song.
To live is to consume. To live is to consume. Every successful economy is built around a hopeless cycle of repetition where we sell you the empty promise of happiness and fulfillment, and unfulfilled as ever, you still come back for more.
Yes, that is the game, Domi.
Every successful economy is built...
Our goal is to create a galactic system that maximizes innovative self-actualization and redefines future-proof solutions for every stage of a customer's life. Our multidisciplinary customer satisfaction specialists are always just a click away. Don't hesitate. Discover limitless possibilities with Megacorp today. Megacorp. The future is our present. Our multidisciplinary...
So obviously I'm going with the Slick Corporation. We've already got the name down. All right, flags. I seem to remember I had one before, but I don't remember. Oh wait, hang on. I think I remember. There we go. We had corporate. Yeah, here we go. Oof, not so good. Maybe I went for a darker green? Yeah, I like that. I might change it in accordance with the appearance of the ruler. But I'll just go for a default plantoid ship. There was a really great name. Bud Light? Just give me a second here, guys. I lost my phone. All right. Ebenezer Hawthorne, CEO. And I think, damn it, I gotta get back to the Bud Hard Oak. That's a great name, Freighter 5. The Hawthorne I changed because I really liked that name in when I saw it in the generation. I do want to find a minute though. This is the color scheme that I went for. So let's find the room. I think I'm also gonna have to change the colors. I think I forgot to do that when I made the character originally. But I like these windows. You know, close 5 actually isn't the worst. I think I'm actually going to stick with that. The big thing on this one is this is going to wind up changing pretty soon anyway. So Domi says, Chuck just startled you so hard because you're falling asleep. Too bad you won't be able to see the blooming of the corp, but you got to see. Oh, I'm sorry for startling you. Ouch, the eyes of sin. You trying to tell me something? All right. So yeah, I'm sorry, Domi. There will definitely be a VOD of this. So the last thing that we're going to be doing. Oh yes, I need to come up with a name for the overall species, and then I need to come up with a biography. Now the biography is going to involve me being a bit quiet because I tend to find that I write a little bit better when I'm not trying to explain the thought process. But. Well, one way or the other, Domi, I'm obviously very sorry that I'm starting so late, but I really appreciate you stopping by, and I'm very happy that I got a chance to finally lift the mystery on what that Twitter account was. So keep an eye on it. There should be at least one tweet a day I want to have done, but there may be more as well. But anyways, let's think a little bit about species names. So. I might maybe just start thinking about a biography to write instead of Just debating if I want to lean into the plant thing or if I want to lean into the corporate thing. Oh, here I go, actually. Piece of cake. All right, let me go back to the Twitter. I want to take a quick look at some of the stuff that I've already written. Oh, George Bush died. That's a shame. I have to start with pleased to announce. Ooh, whoops. So I can't add a paragraph. I just gotta take a look and see what some of the other tweets I've got coming up might be. I have like half a closing for this, but I'm trying to make it work. I'm sorry, guys. Your names are really good, Isis, and I will absolutely. I am actually. I think it is a bit of a shame that you are not the one doing the playthrough. To be completely frank. All right. Ah, I just lost it. All right. I think this one will work out. Let me know what you guys think of this. Rhizome Capital is pleased to announce that it has successfully completed its first round of seed capital. Our plants are already running at full capacity, getting ready to offer you the finest goods and services the galaxy has to offer. Tax season got you down? Our bean counters at Deloitte are licensed in all jurisdictions and legal systems. Need help with housework? Rhizome Robotics solar-powered photosynthetic assistants are ready to attend to your every need. Under the sage guidance of Ebenezer Hawthorne, will make you green. Rhizome Capital. Leaf growth to the experts. Does it communicate what it needs to? Should I do any more work on it? Captain Shield approves. There are definitely going to be... What I wanted to do was list off some more subsidiaries through this. Obviously, I'm recycling a little bit of the material from... I'm recycling a little bit of the material from the Twitter account, but I think we're in good shape. So here's the question. I was debating... I have actually hit the 55-minute mark, so as sort of predicted, we usually take an hour... to make a species. If I got done early, I was debating on doing a sister species of the one group of workers that unionized under Rhizome Capital as a potential antagonist. But I think I'm just gonna go into the game if you're okay with that. Oh, here. Freighter 5, just so you can be caught up to speed, I'll read the biography one more time. Rhizome Capital is pleased to announce that it has successfully completed its first round of seed capital. Our plants are already running at full capacity, getting ready to offer you the finest goods and services the galaxy has to offer. Tax season got you down? Our bean counters at Deloitte are licensed in all jurisdictions and legal systems. Need help with housework? Rhizome Robotics solar-powered photosynthetic assistants are ready to attend to your every need. Under the sage guidance of Ebenezer Hawthorne, we'll make you green. Rhizome Capital. Leaf growth to the experts. So, there you go. I think we're just gonna go with the defaults here. All right, I'm gonna hammer away at this. This is how I randomize. Oh, actually, here's a good way of doing this because of the delay. Could somebody please say stop in chat? As soon as I see the first stop, I'll I'll stop clicking my mouse. This is probably how I wound up getting my mouse wheel broken, now that I think of it. Thank you. It's elliptical. So I'm going to randomize everything. I'm okay. Actually, you know what? I kind of want to go down to captain. I'm not going to do ensign. You know, I think I'll go down to captain just because I'm going to be learning some new mechanics, and you all can call me a big baby for that. Everything else, I think we'll keep at the default levels. Is the music okay? I was a little worried it was too loud, too quiet. In the aeons since the first primitive shareholder communities took shape in the dense jungles of Rhizome Capital, our civilization has spread and prospered. In the early days, our people were governed by primitive feudal realms and inefficient nation-states. Gradually, as global trade increased, the influence of private corporations grew steadily until their power far surpassed that of the governments that once tried to regulate them. After a series of mergers and violent takeovers during the destructive corporate wars, a single megacorporation eventually emerged as the sole ruling body of our homeworld. Now, after the discovery of the Hyperlane network, the finest minds of the Rhizome Capital have finished the development of the first hyperdrives. The stars themselves are finally within our grasp. Okay. We are ready to go with the gameplay, and you will notice that this screen looks very different from what it used to. So, again, a lot of you have probably seen the developer diaries and understand a lot of this better than I do. Now, one drawback that I have is if I use my mouse wheel, I am going to wind up completely zoomed in and not be able to change any other way. I actually maybe shouldn't have turned on... I maybe would have been wise not to turn on Iron Man mode so I could use the gamepad to control the zoom and whatnot. But we'll make do. I haven't had a problem navigating the windows. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to at least briefly go over the changes that I noticed, and then we'll sort of learn this together. And one of the reasons why I'm really enthusiastic about this is that I rarely get chances to play games that I'm familiar with and just have sort of the rug pulled out from under me and have to learn everything over again. And I think sometimes there is some value. I remember sometimes with Crusader Kings, there was sort of this worry because I felt very confident with the game and people were like, oh, well, you know, I could never learn something like this. And I could only ever learn Crusader Kings once on stream, but I really did do that on stream. So I think sometimes there's a benefit, you know, obviously if I wanted to try and impress you all, I would have done my homework and like built everything up on here, but I think it would actually be kind of fun, especially while we're kind of taking our first steps to the game here, you know, to have a bit of a chance to say, it's like, well, when I'm faced with something unfamiliar in this game, how do I go about it? And one of the things that I sort of try and do is make some guesses in terms of maybe why things are the way that they are or how the dynamics will play out a little bit. So again, some of you, some of you are just going to be here to want to see the thing like just played and not hear me talk. That's not really the sort of stream that I do, so I have a feeling I'm going to disappoint some people. But what I will say is I am really looking forward to sort of seeing how some of these systems work, and more importantly, to see where my assumptions go and where the game sort of shifts them. So anyways, we've got our familiar terms here. We've got energy credits. Energy credit is an energy-backed currency accepted by all spacefaring races. You can gain more energy by building generator districts on the surface of colonized planets, using construction ships to build mining stations around energy-rich planets or stars, or selling resources on the market. Minerals. Minerals is a collective term for basic resources that we need to construct ships, stations, and planetary buildings. We can gain more by building mining districts on the surface of colonized planets, using construction ships to build mining stations around mineral-rich planets or asteroids, or by buying more on the market. Hello, Melemony! How are you doing? By the way, for those of you who know the special Twitter account for this, feel free to share that with the newcomers. because I am going to keep adding to that. Food. Food represents the various nutrients required to sustain and grow pops. You can gain more by building agriculture districts on the surface of colonized planets, or by buying more on the market. And you will notice, for the sharp-eyed amongst you, that the cap is at 10,000, which is very different from where it was before. In fact, all of these are at 10,000, but food in particular, normally you would have to give a policy that would set that. So, consumer goods. Now, this used to be sort of abstracted away, and what they would give you instead would be a penalty to your minerals. Now, these are explicitly modeled in the game. Consumer goods is an advanced resource that represents the various gadgets, luxuries, and goods necessary to give your pops a good life and to perform intellectual jobs such as research. You can gain more by building civilian industries buildings on the surface of colonized planets. The Cool Eagle! It has been a while! Thank you very much for that host. And there's 85 of you, so you must have been doing Stellaris as well. We are actually just starting our playthrough because I took some time building my plant people. Great to see you. In fact, now would be a really good time to start doing some shout-outs, but I think we're going to... run through what I'm doing on here. So, quick word for those of you, especially from Cool Eagle Stream. He is a really great guy. I am coming into this really without reading many of the developer diaries and that, so it's going to be a slow start as I am going through some of these changes and making some rough calls in terms of where I'm going to go with that. I'm not really looking to be told how to play the game, because this is my chance for people who start watching me play a game to see how I sort of figure it out. So I completely understand if you want to go and find one of the other Stellaris streamers where there's more stuff going on. But for those of you who want to hang out, I am really looking forward to this. I have been looking forward to the stream for a while, and we've set up a special Twitter account, and we've got a special species that we've set up and all of that. And I hope at least some of you hang around. Let me just say hello to Clinodev, Lorem Ipsum, Sniper Guy Gaming, and I think that's it. Anyways, thank you very much, all of you. Let me take a quick second. While we are paused, I'm going to do this in the order in which they showed out. So if you guys are looking for Stellaris, first of all, for the people who were here before, the Cool Eagle is somebody who I believe I got to know you through Stellaris. But the Cool Eagle is one of these quiet supporters of the stream who I occasionally reference as a concept, but I've never actually mentioned him individually. And one of the things that's been really nice is, especially for things like Cultist Simulator and Stellaris, he will very steadfastly push like the like button or do the retweet or that, but I don't get as many opportunities to see him. Sometimes I'll see him in the channel. I think he probably visits my channel more than I visit his. At least he is more active in my channel than I am in his. But he is an incredibly friendly guy. I remember once upon a time when I was making his follower counts, or not follower count, his viewer counts blow up, and he has definitely returned the favor tonight. So a very special thank you to him. I think that gives you a lot of an example of his character, and I know the majority of people here are already going to be are already going to be familiar with him, so I don't mean to belabor the point, but it is a chance for me to be able to let some of you, especially some of my regulars, know about this person who I don't get as many chances to shout out. So, by the way, what species did you... Rudy Rod, thank you very much for that follow. Cool Eagle, what kind... Could you tell us a little bit about the species that you wound up playing? Oh my god, Sniper Guy Gaming, thank you very much for the follow as well. I'm going to take a quick minute here and shout out a couple of other streamers who are in the channel, because I think the best thing I can say, even if my channel isn't your kind of thing, I bet you're going to like a couple of these other people because they also do Stellaris. So, Fanatic Pacifist Materialist, that is a fun idea for sure. I take it you are playing a Megacorp, though. We have got K5RTO. So, K5RTO, I met through Surviving Mars, actually. He is a very good science fiction streamer. He's one of the few people that I've ever played Stellaris multiplayer with. In fact, if we can find a way of getting the cool eagle inside of this, that would be great. Cleanodev, thank you very much for the follow as well. But I do think K5, even though the most recent thing that I saw him play was Red Dead Redemption 2, K5 does No Man's Sky, he does Elite Dangerous, he does Stellaris, he does occasionally do Cultist Simulator as well, but very relaxed guy, very good in terms of very conversational, very friendly environment. In fact, he brought in a lot of really nice people into the channel. It made Surviving Mars very pleasant, and I'm actually going to be turning that into a vodcast series, partially as a result of the very warm reactions that everybody got. So if you guys are looking for slightly more active, active chats, and streams with a little bit more going on, I definitely recommend K5RTO. And on top of that, he's got a wonderful mod named Melemony, who is also a streamer in her own right. Melemony, again, I know her mostly through Stellaris, but that is certainly not the extent of her talents. But is another example of somebody who's extremely personable, definitely a lot better at getting the action going, in my opinion, but does not turn away the opportunity to to really interact with people and make the channel very special. And finally, last but not least, I have got a wonderful friend here, the Eyes of Sin 92. Some of you have been seeing this Epicurus emote thrown around, System 1 HMM. She is the creator of that. She has been giving me some delightful plant puns and might have a little bit of a role in this special plant-based series of streams that we'll be doing in the future. So these are some excellent streamers that I think you guys should check out. Isaacson also said, welcome potential customers. The CEO of Rhizome Capital Corporation Intergalactic hopes that you have a lovely stay here. Please feel free to look at our interactive holo catalog and enjoy a peek at our range of delightful, high-quality life innovations. You are really good at this, Isaacson. Thank you for your purchase. Your new interactive holocaster will arrive shortly. We call this model System Jock. That is great. And let me take a quick second here, because I know I am bleeding viewers really quickly. Even if you guys are going to be leaving to find another stream, that is totally fine. But if you are a streamer, whether it is Stellaris or not, whenever there is a fairly large number of people inside here, I do like it to give people a chance to shout themselves out. So if I missed you, if you think I didn't do a good job of shouting you out, if you just generally want people to know about who you are, for the next little while, feel free to say what your stream is, when you stream, why we should watch you, that sort of stuff. Feel free to kind of have open season in terms of talking about yourself, because I'm going to be going over some of the mechanics inside of the game, and I figured that's a really nice way that I can sort of pay you guys back for the delay to the gameplay, if you will. So anyways, we're talking about sort of refined goods. So in this case here, the consumer goods are no longer abstracted away in the form of reductions on minerals. They are a specific thing that you build inside the game now. So, hey, that's Lorem Ipsum. If you want a bunch of people to watch your channel, say, hey, this is, when this expansion comes out, I'm streaming at 6 o'clock Eastern time. Be there. You figure out whether it's AM or PM. There is no experience requirement. There is no, if you want to stream, if you have streamed, whatever you want to do, let us know. Everybody has to start somewhere, and I think if people want to see new channels, that's for them to decide. So. Anyways, we will get them from building civilian industries or buying more on the market. We've got the alloys. Alloys are advanced resources with a military application, which we need to construct ships and star bases. We can gain more by building alloy foundries and buildings on the surfaces of colonized planets, and we can buy some on the market. Influence, I believe, is unchanged. Influence represents political clout and is used for many things like enacting edicts, making claims, building outposts, and dealing with factions. The gain rate remains fairly constant throughout the game, but can be increased by winning the support of factions in our empire and declaring other empires as rivals. By the way, I am seeing some of these here. I'll try and review them as I go through, but I am seeing your streams. And please, guys, if any of that does sound interesting, please do feel free to follow those people. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything to do that, and you might find something new that you really like. So please do take the opportunity. It's not just I want people to write things in a void. If you think that might be your sort of thing, definitely give these folks a follow. I know they can use the support. Exactly like Cool Eagle gave me here. This is definitely something, it's very much a case of what goes around comes around, so definitely keep that in mind. Unity is used to unlock new traditions. We can increase our output by building autothon monuments or other buildings that provide jobs which produce Unity. We don't have those monuments, but we have something equivalent. So what do we learn from looking at these descriptions? Well, we'll probably see a little bit more when we go to the planet screen. But you have basic resources, which 2 of 3 can be extracted from space, and then you have sort of these refined goods which need to be produced on planets. And one thing that I find particularly interesting about alloys is that once upon a time you would have this tension in terms of expansion or military in the form of minerals. You know, do you want to build things on your planet? Do you want to build things in your navy? And it's really interesting that they've expanded the number of commodities in this game, because now it seems that minerals you can sort of use to build your civilian infrastructure. Alloys you're going to use to sort of build your more expansionistic sort of units or sort of hard points, like like a starbase or something like that. But I like the fact that there's still this tension in here. So you can build a starbase and you can colonize that planet, and you'll probably have enough resources to do that. But the catch is that you're still going to be severely undefended because you used those alloys to create the starbase to be able to colonize the planet rather than build up your navy. And then, of course, you can say, well, I'll build up the navy first. It's like, okay, but you are missing out on all of this productive capacity because you didn't build enough factories early on, and now you have this problem. So it's neat that what they were able to do is they were able to maintain the tensions that were in the game from the beginning, but they've also made it so that you can still have meaningful and interesting choices to make in terms of building up your industry without saying, okay, I guess I'm just not going to have a navy for the first few turns. So that's sort of, when I take a look at this thing, this is the first sort of impression that I get by reading these descriptions, because you'll notice, like, there's no alloy producing resources in space here. Now, I don't know, maybe we'll run into a planet that does that, but it says inside here, building alloy foundries, whereas in terms of minerals it says build mining stations. So I'm going to guess here that this is a refined good that requires populations to work on. So yeah, there we go. By the way, thank you guys for following and also letting us know about your streams. Science is exactly as it was before, it looks like. They've just collapsed it down to an overall research button. We've got some special resources. These might be, I don't remember volatile motes before, or nanites for that matter. So empire size, this is another thing that's changed. While our empire size is lower than our administrative cap, we do not suffer any penalties. Empire size is a measure of the territorial expanse of your empire in the form of controlled systems, colonies, and districts. A high empire size is a strain on your empire's administrative capacity and will increase the cost of technologies, traditions, leaders, and campaigns. Not clear on what campaigns are, but I'm sure we'll learn that later. And what's interesting here is that there doesn't seem to be a lot of ways to game this. So it is factoring in things like districts. So, it's not just that you don't need to make this weird choice of like, oh, I'm going to colonize that planet, but it only has like 9 spaces or something like that. It is going to say, it's like, look, if you've got this massive world and every last inch of it is covered in plant people, that's going to count towards your empire size. So here our administrative cap is 50. We're well below that, but I'm sure that'll come up. We own 1 star system, 1 colonized system. Nath19XX, thank you very much for the follow. I do not know what year you were born because you've censored it, but welcome. And Laura Mipsum, thank you very much for that follow as well. I appreciate it. We've got 28 shareholders in Rhizome Capital. Starbase capacity, naval capacity, same as what it was before. All right. For those of you, I'm sorry for those of you who've already heard this before, but let me give you the sales pitch. So this is Rhizome Capital. If you want to learn more about them, they have social media. This is Chief Executive Officer Ebenezer Hawthorne. What is Rhizome Capital? I am glad you asked. Rhizome Capital is pleased to announce that it has successfully completed its first round of seed capital. Our plants are already running at full capacity, getting ready to offer you the finest goods and services the galaxy has to offer. Tax season got you down? Our bean counters at Deloitte are licensed in all jurisdictions and legal systems. Need help with housework? Rhizome Robotics solar-powered photosynthetic assistants are ready to attend to your every need. Under the sage guidance of Ebenezer Hawthorne, we'll make you green. Rhizome Capital. Leaf growth to the experts. All right. So when we start Solaris, pretty much every other Paradox game. We can obviously go through these menus as well, but I am going to deal with the alerts at the very top. So let's go for our physics technology. So our choices here are I have not even begun I've not even begun with the puns, the Cool Eagle. I mean, you might consider that. Okay, I apologize to everybody who was here an hour ago. You might consider these first puns the low-hanging fruit. That'll be the only time that I reuse a pun that I say on stream. But yeah, so usually the way that I take a look at research is I say, okay, well, what'll be the shortest to research? And what are the ones, what am I giving up by researching that? So we've got 1-2000 physics research, and this will be field modulation. Now, this is particularly helpful because it's a percent-based improvement for technicians. So in this case here, this is just something that takes my existing resources and makes them better. It's a productivity improvement. So I don't think it counts quite as a pun, Lorem Ipsum, but it's, Maybe a misidentified pun is even more infuriating than a proper pun. You decide. Vote with your dollars. $5 if you think it's not a pun, $10 if you think it is a pun. Donation buttons down below. We also have global energy management. Now what this does is this unlocks the energy grid, but it's not as easy as it used to be in terms of just planting down buildings. You actually have to make some choices. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to lock myself into any particular building choices at the moment until we sort of figure out how that goes. I also probably would have gone for this because it is the least expensive. So these are all relatively good. This is just more attractive because I get it faster. All right, Rose Oak. Hey, Rose Hawthorne. Good to know that we're keeping the family business. So Rose Oak has two 2000 cost research projects and then one 3000. So the Hyper Entertainment Forum's interesting, but again, the decision to put down a building is a fairly meaningful one right now. So what if you donate $5 twice, double negative? The correct answer is do it and find out, but I like your answer too, Lauren Ipsum. So I think probably the best way, because for the same reason that I was a little cautious about getting new buildings, I might skip over the Hyper Entertainment Forum because it's also the longest one. So really, I just need to break this decision down to the two low-cost options. Now, you might say, well, you went for a percent-based bonus towards resource. Would you do the same for society? And generally, yes, but Unity is very strong. Of course, we also get additional edicts campaigns, so unlocks additional edicts called campaigns that cost energy instead of influence. Okay, well, that answers that question about about empire size. So I think I'm going to go for planetary unification just because I do like spinning off a lot of unity. It does also give us some additional sort of influence-oriented text later. That's what that little unlock is for. So biodiversity studies we'll have available to us later. I think planetary unification is worth it on its own. Finally, engineering research. In this case, I've got 2 military-based ones, which I'm a little less inclined towards, and they do cost more. So it's a pretty easy option here. Nanomechanics will just wind up being a bit better at engineering research, but I prefer that to building ships. And one of the reasons for that as well is that when you think about it, I'm probably going to be expanding for the first few turns. I don't necessarily want to be building ships, and so I don't necessarily want to be upgrading them all that much because it's just going to mean it's going to cost me more to start building my fleet. So in this particular case here, I don't see a major reason to rush into military production at the beginning. So we'll see if that choice pays off. So we've dealt with our alerts, so we'll take a quick second here for contacts. I mean, here's Rhizome Capital again. Do you guys want to hear the sales pitch? No. Situation log, nothing here. Anomalies, victory. This is something that's different, I noticed. So the game will give you a score and it'll give you a rank. It's starting to resemble sort of Europa Universalis and Crusader Kings a little bit more. I sort of like how this is done, but I'm not gonna belabor it too much because we very rarely look at the victory screen. You wonder if it's still wise to disband a fleet at the start? Probably not, since alloys. That's a good question, Lorem Ipsum. I tend not to do that sort of stuff anyway. I definitely am not somebody who's really focused on sort of maximizing every last efficiency out of what I do in this game. I tend not to play on really severe difficulty levels, but that'd be interesting. I think it's probably one I'll try off cast. So, all right. So it looks like we can buy and sell. I think this is probably going to wind up replacing the special like the, I guess, conclaves, is it? Enclaves. Like Megacorp and things like that. Looks like there's a galactic market. So looks like you pay 30% to pick something up, so I could sell out my minerals in order to gain energy, but why would I ever want to do that? Okay, this is neat. So I have a feeling I'd probably wind up buying quite a bit as far as these things go. One thing that I see potentially being very interesting here is, let's say that you're very good at sort of producing raw goods. You go Grand Admiral all the time. Yeah, so like once I start playing on something of a regular basis as like a Grand Admiral, I might consider like getting every last resource. But I definitely, in terms of streaming, just prefer something that I can sort of hang out and chat with people about. So it looks like energy is the it looks like everything's denominated in energy. So I'm wondering if there is an argument at some point for putting a lot into energy production so that you can buy up these goods. I see less of a reason to sort of, build up raw goods, sell them for energy, and then buy the refined goods. I think you're just paying too much of a tax there. But it's also possible that your market fees go down, or there's something else that you wind up getting to sort of make these terms more favorable. So, oh no, not at all, Lorem. I actually prefer an active chat. So, sector auto build disabled. Interesting. So I noticed that there isn't a create sector button here. They might have gotten rid of it, which is a shame because I never found sectors all that bad, but I also have a feeling that was something that people were getting. I have a feeling that was some pretty consistent feedback that they were getting as far as the game. I know the biggest question that always came up was I think the biggest question that came up for everyone was how do sectors work? So Isaacson says, what sprouts to mind when you hear the word innovation? You've got it right. Rhizome Capital Co-Intergalactic. We guarantee to leave you, our valued customer, with full fondness of our high-quality, life-changing innovations as you leaf through our unbelievable catalog. You'll find that in no time you've grown to love our products. They're unbeatable. Sin, you and I have to have a chat about the Twitter account afterwards. I cannot top what you're doing here. Thank you very much, Cool Eagle. I'm sorry we haven't even hit on pause yet, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you dropping this host. I hope we get a chance. You know, frankly, I hope we get a chance to play this sometime soon because I feel like we've talked about it. I hope you had a great stream. I really want to see you play this. I might actually check out your VOD, but I want to catch you live. Thank you so much again. Have a great night, and we'll talk soon, okay? All right, economic policies, militarized economy, civilian economy. There might be an argument to go to militarized, but not yet. Trade policy, wealth creation. Trade value earns energy. Energy and consumer goods. Energy and unity. Interesting. So we're not really at a point where we're doing a lot of trading, but this trade policy interests me a lot. I'm okay with the defaults for policies. Edicts, I think we sort of already know what we're doing. It looks like they've taken a cue from Endless Space and Endless Legend as far as the edicts are concerned, spending these luxury goods in order to achieve certain outcomes. Traditions we'll run into later. I almost never design my own ships at this difficulty level. We don't have any factions, claims, species. All of this stuff can wait for later. So, last thing, if at any point you want to give a live reading of the intro, you are more than happy to help in advertising. Yeah, I mean, again, we need to chat about some of the plans that I have for this for sure. So we've got our capital world. This will be the last thing, or sorry, there'll be 2 other screens that we look at and then we'll unpause. You'll notice that this looks entirely different from what it was before. So once upon a time, we just look at the empty tiles and say, where do I want to build something, and go ahead with it. And right now, what we need to do is we need to manage our population. So we've got 2 executives. If you don't want to get very granular on this, you can just take a look at what each of these are generating. So in this case, we are generating unity. I don't know what these other 2 are. It says modifiers are... I guess it's because we have amenities and trade value, we're getting more towards our unity. So... looks the same 100%. Specialists. This is probably going to be a little bit more interesting. So artisans are producing the consumer goods. These are the plants with which we are producing the things that we would like to sell to you. How much do you have to pay off to get into that game with System Shock and Cool Eagle? Man, K5, that pretty much you and Melemony have to be in that game. I would feel bad. I always think the game is more interesting when you have a galaxy full of people. So, what's the buy-in? Anything you'll give me. Okay, enforcement. Law enforcement officers are responsible for upholding the law and maintaining peace. Metallurgists. So the thing that's really interesting here, you'll notice it'll tell you here that you can increase and decrease the priority, but what's also most interesting is you'll notice we're at full capacity on all of these things. So I could say, okay, well just, you know, I want more alloys. In this case, they are... Yeah, this is really cool. So this absolutely is raw materials being turned into refined goods. So you can't just, you know, maximize one output. I like this a lot. This is officially Victoria 3. You're in a day-long multi-game with Cool Eagle and some people once. It was a blast. Also long. Yeah, that's the one problem. You'll notice, like, for me, playing multiplayer is a complete culture shock because I'm okay keeping the game paused forever. When you play on multiplayer, like, if anybody does 3 or more, I panic. But yeah. Okay, so clerks are what? So they are producing amenities and trade value. Farmers are producing food. So this is basically, okay, I think the way we can think about this is what Stellaris used to look like, except for the clerks faction. And again, we're at capacity. We don't have any more areas to work. If I hit a minus on here, I've got someone unemployed. So in this case here, I can't sort of cheat. I'm actually going to have to think a little bit about how I build up my infrastructure and how I want to guide how I want to be able to guide this economy. Now, this is one thing that I think is so this is not going to be a criticism of Megacorps. But here's an interesting idea. If you think of the Megacorp, and this also extends to the idea of maybe this is a mod idea that somebody might be able to work with. If you think of the Megacorp as portrayed, let's say, in the advertising for the game, you have the shiny advertising world, as is given in the trailer. And then you have sort of the poverty that is brought on by, by the free market. Now, basically, so, with my econ background, what's going on in the background here? Well, I mean, the trope comes from cyberpunk, literature, and a lot of this stuff is written around the 80s, and everybody's convinced that the Japanese are going to buy everything. And sort of corporate domination is going to render most of society sort of expendable. It's like you're either someone who can work and produce things for a wage which is probably worth less than your value, and if you don't fit within that system, then you can starve. And the Megacorps are totally happy with that. And then, when you think of things like Shadowrun or just generally the sort of cyberpunk hero, these are people who are not, they're marginalized, but the big thing is that they're not just sitting there starving, waiting to die. These are people who have actively rejected the system. They're very smart. They're very capable. And they say, I am not going to be, you can't buy me, hot dog man. I'm not a part of this system. They choose a life of crime, and it's an act of rebellion, and it's, it's basically not the people who are huddled around the barrel with the fire that you see in the trailer. So the idea here is that the organizing principles of sort of this profit-maximizing entity are indifferent to the suffering of the most vulnerable in society. This is a pretty common theme in sort of megacorps and cyberpunk and whatnot. Now, the funny thing is that because Stellaris is about the higher end, you are running the civilization, you actually have an incentive to achieve full employment. You do not want unemployed pops. And this is the big thing, right? In econ, if you've ever taken a class, you'll know that there's this fictional idea of the social planner. What would a benevolent dictator sort of organize society as if they were trying to maximize everyone's well-being? And you use that as a benchmark against which you can maybe evaluate one of your other systems. And because here in Stellaris, you are society, you are going to maximize sort of your social outcomes because you, the player, are getting them. But what it means is when you're playing this super evil megacorp, you actually want to have full employment. You want to make sure that everybody has a job, because if you don't have people with jobs, you're not producing as much as you can, and your crime goes up, and there's all bad things that happen inside of the game. So what might be really interesting, and again, I don't think this is appropriate for Stellaris because, again, it is the big macro picture, but it would be sort of be interesting to see if megacorporations had something where you could get a really big benefit if there was some level of unemployment. or basically that you were given an incentive to make it so that some of your society would be unemployed. And the trade-off would be that you need to invest more in enforcement, to make sure that some of those cyberpunk heroes are properly dealt with. And in this case, you're starting to reflect some of the more negative sides of it. I think the best that you can sort of hope for in the current implementation of Stellaris. The problem is that this is a thematically very interesting thing, and gameplay-wise, I think would make the Megacorp's expansion very frustrating to play. So I think the halfway mark you can hit is if you have something like Indentured Servitude. But yeah, expendable exactly, Lorem Ipsum. But again, this is the big thing. Like, this is not a criticism of Megacorps, because I think the thing that I just described is good cyberpunk literature and probably terrible Stellaris gameplay. But there's a reason why these games are moddable. So if you like that idea and you think you have an interesting way of implementing it to make it a little bit more true to the source material, I encourage you to go for it. I am debating on doing it, but I also have a couple of other mod ideas that I want to work through first. So anyways, we still have blockers. So we've got basically 2 industrial wastelands and a sprawling slums and a partridge in a pear tree. It's going to cost us quite a bit to remove. So we'll unblock a prosperous mesa, which will give me more mining districts. And it will give me a new pop. So essentially what I want to do, I want to either build more resources for people to work before I clear out the sprawling slums. So yeah, I either want to clear out... Oh, you know what? I don't want to clear out the industrial wasteland because that just gives me capacity, and I've already got the capacity. I'm already at capacity. So I guess the decision now becomes, do I want to spend money on producing these raw materials, or do I want to spend money on building one of these things here? Can try another alloy foundry because I do need more alloys. But then there is my usual start of building something like an Autothon monument, which was now the corporate culture site. And what will this give me? Managers turn consumer goods into unity, trade value, and society research. So the thing that makes this expansion so interesting to me right now is that you have this entire system of inputs and outputs that you're managing at the planet level. And again, we're building all of this with minerals, which means we have interesting decisions to make early on. And because there are these alloys that we're going to be working with later, we still have interesting things that we can do with our ships. It's no longer, guns or butter. It's, I'm going to do a trade-off in terms of military applications, and I'm going to do a trade-off in terms of mineral applications. And I think that's a very satisfying way to make this game engaging. So, your species better not use paper or anything, because then you have some questions. Lorem Ipsum. I wouldn't call myself a modder. I don't have anything that you can get in the Steam Workshop, but I have played around with the modding tools in Stellaris, and I think they are interesting, and I want to do more of it. So, all right. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start off. This might be an unexciting decision, but I'm actually going to start off by acquiring more minerals. Then I'm going to move on to acquiring more energy. The main reason for that is that as much as I like research, I do want to acquire inputs to my production. In the meantime, let's get our science ship going. So this is unfortunately where my inability to use my scroll wheel is really coming to hurt me. So let's get... Best mod, by the way, is the one that makes your pops into anime fox girls. I think this is a dead end, so let's all right, I'm gonna do something a little... I think this is gonna be a little inefficient, but I can reevaluate it later. All right, I think I'm good to go. There's nothing else to spend money on, and so now we are finally playing the game. Or Cat Girls, if that's your thing. All right, I think we'll speed things up a little bit. One thing I have noticed in the little trial that I did, things just generally moved quite a bit faster at the start of the game, so... Oh, I didn't talk about the shipyard. So we've started off with shipyard and trade hub and a crew quarters. So I can build corvettes, which will cost me alloys. Construction ship will cost me... Oh! I did not know construction ships cost me alloys. That's good to know. Colony ships seem to just generally be less expensive. Efforts to map the surface of this planet have identified a strange mountain formation in the southern hemisphere.
Upscaling complete.
Right. Does not appear to have formed naturally. I think I'm going to research. So I'm going to research some of these planets more simply because it's more costly to expand. So I want a little bit more time to get some more information. What I'll wind up doing is I'll build another science ship, which unfortunately is also going to cost me alloys. I already have enough. Holy smokes, I'm generating a lot of energy. So I'm going to build a science ship right now. We've already got a pilot for it. And then we're just going to hover over... the energy. So because I get an early science ship, I'm going to research the longer anomaly. Hey, Five Gods. And Prodsy Smock. Starbase has finished its construction queue. Okay, so let's build our mining station and let's get another scientist on here. So, recruiting, relatively, I mean, they're the oldest of the options, but relatively young and faster survey speed, so I think I'm going to go with that, especially because we have a, you know, I'm just going to I'm going to queue this back up. So what I'll do instead, this guy's going to focus entirely on the right-hand side. This guy's going to do the rest of the path that I had scheduled out for my other ship. So we'll move this up. I think I'm just going to stick with this for now, and we'll figure out, well, when am I really locked into a decision? I think I can head down like this first. And then I'm either going to decide to expand out like this, or I might go out and around and move up. Looks like we have quite a few options available to us, though, so... Yeah, so Lorem Ipsum, I don't know. From what I understand, they've actually changed how the modding works in the background, so... Are we finally embarking on our Stellaris adventure? I do appreciate the plant puns. We will absolutely be continuing on with those. I should maybe make like a contest to see who can come up with some good tweets for the account. Most art-only mods do work despite being out of... Oh yeah, that's a good point, because it's not... I mean, you're just really pointing to an image. So one of the things I need to keep in mind is... So I've always had this, like, high growth policy for my empires, but I do actually need to keep this in mind, because right now I don't have something for this worker to do. I might want to sit down and say, well, you know, what do I want this thing to be creating? Probably the answer is...
Upscaling complete.
Well, I suppose there's two ways that I can think about that. I can either get them to generate my lowest... I can get them to generate the thing that I have the least of, or I can get them to... or I can focus on things like, well, I want more alloys, so I'm going to get more of the things that are inputs to alloy production. Oh lord, this is inconvenient with that. Okay, I'm going to try my mouse wheel. Hey, that worked. The discovery of alien life, the RCO Meropentea. Yeah, so I just can't zoom out. All right. has made the startling discovery on Yamal 1. The planet is teeming with alien life. For the first time in history, we have encountered life forms that did not originate on Rhizome Capital. This amazing discovery has silenced those who believed that we were alone in the universe. Although none of the alien creatures found on Yamal 1 are sapient, it is likely only a matter of time before we encounter beings that are. We may not be alone out here. Alright, so I think that was the anomaly. That was not the anomaly. Sorry guys, I'm just going to take a quick second and take a sip of my beverage. Thank you, by the way. I know there's a little bit of a dip after the host, but it looks like a lot of you have hung around after Cool Eagle's host, and I do appreciate that. I get, you know, even from the very first Stellaris stream, there were a lot of people who really did not like the fact that I took my time on this, and I get it. I understand that people have certain expectations based on Twitch, but I also sort of know that if I'm the sort of person who will change the casting style to appeal to people who will maybe only be there for a week, I'm not necessarily going to do right by the people who come in regularly. SGB BU, thank you very much for that follow. So I did want to take a quick minute and say I know it is not for everyone. I do appreciate you guys hanging through that with me. So I am going to try and be a little bit better. I'm not going to, you know, if there's something that interests me and I'm going to take the time in the game, I'll still do that. But at the very least, it'll be discovering Megacorps for the first time and somebody who is largely unfamiliar with the changes that they're making. So make designer pops for the slave market. The Rhizome Capital is abuzz with news of the alien organisms discovered by the RCA Metropanus some time ago. These little evolutionary marvels kindle in the shareholder people a renewed hope of first contact with intelligent beings. Nothing wrong with going slow, gives you the chance to discuss the ideas of the viewers. Yeah, well I mean, this is the big thing for me, Five Gods. Like, it's not that I definitely do sort of, you know, have a tendency to really like go off the deep end on some of this stuff, but it's not by accident. You know, one of the main reasons why I found Crusader Kings so compelling at the time was the fact that I was able to talk about some of the ideas that I was studying at the time that I was originally playing. Like, uh-oh, this might be a problem. I think if I hit home, I should be able to zoom out. Gigantic skeleton, what was previously thought to be assorted mountains in the southern hemisphere. Oh, really? I thought it would reset the view to not be so zoomed in. Okay, good. Southern hemisphere of Cursa 3 have been identified as massive skeletal remains of a single colossal alien life form. The bones have been dated as 3.4 billion years old, but our scientists have ruled out that Cursa 3 could have supported life on that scale at any point in the planet's history. Science officer Viola Light has prepared a special research project to delve further into this mystery. Well, I like looking into mysteries, so let's keep with that. Minus the puns. The puns are non-negotiable. But yeah, again, it's a choice. I always think that I can do better in terms of sort of balancing the needs of a more common viewer than another. I mean, I'm a small channel for a reason. But on the other hand, I also think there's sometimes some value in giving people something that they haven't been able to find somewhere else. I obviously don't make a living doing this, so I'm allowed to be small. The Rhizome Capital is abuzz with news of the alien organisms encountered by the RCA Bormavis some time ago. The seemingly native to deep space, they make the extremophile creatures of the Rhizome Capital appear frail. Rhizome Capital appear frail by comparison. While sometimes doubted, encountering alien life was ultimately expected and anticipated, but nothing could have prepared expectant shareholder xenobiologists for the fascinatingly extreme conditions in which life thrives. Right. I do still need to make a decision in terms of what building I'm going to get. So Alloy Foundries has a nice military argument behind it, unless I can find a way to make my existing factories more efficient. Corporate cult. Well, sorry, I'll go through this in order. So, civilian industries will give me turn minerals into consumer goods. I have a surplus of consumer goods right now, so I don't need to worry too much about that. Commercial zones will have clerks producing trade value and amenities, but I believe I can get that by adding additional city districts as well. The difference here is that it gives me 5 clerk jobs versus the existing amount. So I have a feeling I should probably be considering the commercial zones after I max out my capacity for city districts. Corporate culture site, so this will have a manager turning consumer goods into Unity, trade value, and society research. That generally sounds like a good idea. Holo Theater,
Complete.
so I don't have much for my construction ship to do right now, I don't think. Yes, for the additional population. Obviously, I need to find something for them to do, of course. So I need to make some decisions along those lines as well. But you're right, of course. I do want additional population additional workers as quickly as I can. So entertainers turning consumer goods into Unity and amenities. Again, not bad, but it's hard. It's hard for me to argue that consumer goods and amenities are so Unity good. It's hard for me to argue that I really need amenities right now because I have other ways of getting that. I'm not sure if trade value is really getting me any... Well, no, sorry, I should say here right now. Trade value represents the civilian day-to-day economic activity. Starbases collect trade value and convert it into resources such as energy credits. If connected to your capital planet through a trade route, trade value that is directly connected to your capital starbase does not need a trade route to generate resources. So... yeah, well, this is how I learn games like this, Lorem Ipsum, and personally, like, these are themes that I find very interesting. I know there's a lot of people who are new here, so I actually my day job is an economist. So, like, seeing a really robust economic system inside of one of my favorite games is just like, oh my god, of course I want to play this expansion, and it is. So far, like, it really does seem to be everything that I was anticipating. It's definitely taking me a little bit of time. So, like, obviously I've been very speculative in terms of... obviously I've been a little bit speculative in terms of what certain things will be doing for me. But it's neat to just be able to work these thoughts through my head. So, like, one of the things for me was when I started, like... on all the previous patches, you know, I would just rush minerals. I would go into ridiculous amounts of debt in order to be able to get as many minerals as possible. And if I do that now, I have almost nothing because I'm going to have a bottleneck of alloys. Whereas now, energy seems to be rather good because at the very least, if I have a surplus, I can just use that to buy more allies on the market. So. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I know everybody really wants Victoria 3, but frankly, I mean, why not just play Stellaris at this point? You know, this is a pretty, you know, you have all the benefits of the UI improvements of Stellaris, and you definitely have this idea of a lot of interlocking parts in terms of being able to produce the things that you want, and the fact that you need to think a little bit about how you're going to be guiding your overall economy to be able to produce the things that you need is just really satisfying. So, anyway, sorry, we were talking here, directly connected by your capital starbase. All right, so it's telling me the value, trade policy determines what trade value gives you, right, and then we had, I think we were just getting energy credits off of that, so... probably tells us somewhere here we're getting 47 from trade as opposed to, well, with that in mind then, so let's think a little bit about our policies here. So we're currently a mixed economy. To commit ourselves fully to either war or peace is to restrict ourselves to a narrow view. We must be ready for whatever the future may hold. Wait, no, this is not it. Trade policy. So we're currently earning a lot of energy. I also need to think a bit about this because obviously 47.75, if I just remove that, I lose a lot of money. Consumer benefits will cut that value in half. Marketplace ideas, half. Okay. I think the raw energy. Okay, I'm going for raw energy because in the worst case scenario, I can just go and buy more alloys if I feel that I need it. So, hey, that's not a plant pun, Captain Shield. What kind of an outfit do you think this is? So it's pretty clear that I'm going to be using the construction ship to get a new colony set up. And then, so I was going to get rid of the slums for an additional pop. Oh, right, I was going through the Hollow Theaters. So, Unity and amenities, housing and amenities, additional enforcers, additional research points. I don't really have a great argument for additional resource silos. I'm kind of tempted to go for the corporate culture site for the Unity. I do like this idea of gobbling up consumer goods. So one reason why I'm not immediately going for an additional alloy foundry, excuse me, is because I do like this idea of building a new building that like I don't already have on the planet. So I think I'm going to go for that. In the meantime, so I can get additional trade value, which will become additional money. I can get space for 2 more people. Or I can start generating more food. Ah, I did not realize city districts were so expensive, so that changes quite a bit. The ML system has been fully explored. Okay, so honestly, I'm not like not crazy about this system. I mean, it's a size 12 planet, which obviously means something a little different. I only get energy out of that, but I feel like I need to expand somewhere, so... A new planet? Well, I've got 2 planets. So we've got Rhizome Capital. Let me just take a minute here for... I'm going to go through special project completed. Our continued studies of the massive skeletal remains on Cursa 3 have managed to shed some light on how the creature ended up on the planet. There are very faint residual energy readings that indicate some kind of dimensional portal that existed briefly towards the rear of the skeleton. Science officer Viola Light theorizes that the creature passed through this gateway from another dimension only to quickly perish in the hostile environment of Cursa 3. Why it did this and where it came from are questions that may never be answered. Astounding. So... So yeah, and if you're looking for planets or something like that, I mean, we've got these. I apologize for not zooming in, but I have a mouse with a poorly functioning mouse wheel, so I can't get in too close without inconvenience. But like in terms of the planets, everything that we've got so far is pretty vanilla. New founded planet surface? I don't know what you mean by that, Ruby. I'm sorry. I'm trying my best here. I think you know more than I do about this at the moment. I'm just gonna realign my survey ships priorities. We'll figure it out after in terms of what's going on here. And I think I am going to wind up building the star base. It's going to be one of my more costly star bases in the sense of I'm only really gaining energy in exchange for 100 alloys, but I am going to be able to build a relatively early colony ship, so... Planets have different bio... Okay, fair enough. So... Against my better judgment, I'll try to zoom in the catch it. Okay, so we've got barren worlds, gas giants, frozen barren. I don't think there's anything new in my home system.
Market outlier identified.
Class 12 asteroid orbits the planet. The small planetoid's orbit appears too stable for its presence to be a natural occurrence. Ah, see, that's the thing I was dreading. Let's see if we can... Nope. I think I need to go out of one system and then back to another. Okay, so gas giant, or barren world. Toxic world? No, we had toxic worlds before. Well, you know what? I can zoom in on it, but... By the way, if anybody knows hotkeys for zooming in and out, that would be really appreciated right now. But to my understanding, I don't think they're in Stellaris. Also, I think the planets have always looked beautiful, so...
Upscaling
Yes, they
complete.
are. So, colony ship here, 200 food, 200 alloys, and 200 consumer goods. So, the real cost here, of course, is the alloys. But I like this idea of being able to have early colonization, because, of course, that's more workers to produce more resources, which is always a good thing. So the real question now is, do I want the 2 energy that comes from mining, or do I want to start building things for my people to work in? And I think building things for people to work in is a good idea, so this will be done in 219 turns. Now I can start thinking about clearing out some blockers. So in this case, if I want the additional pop, I need to clear out the slums. The slums are going to be done in 120, so I'm just going to wait a little while to clear that out. It's not a money question here. It's just making sure that that plant has something to do after construction. Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that let me just take a second here. I'll read the text. So we've recovered artifacts from an ancient alien civilization on Upsoth 1. Incredibly, the civilization, which is apparently referred to itself as the Cybrex, seems to have been made up of machines that were linked together in some sort of collective consciousness. The age of the artifacts indicate that they were active some 600,000 years ago, in this portion of the galaxy at least, but we have learned nothing of their exact origins. According to a partial data fragment that our scientists managed to extract from one of the artifacts, the Cybrex at some point launched a crusade to destroy all sapient organic life in the galaxy for reasons unknown. Interesting.
Situation log revised.
So let's do... So the way I kind of look at it in terms of the colonies, I like the fact that it's going on early, and I think so between Lorem Ipsum and Five Gods, both of these statements are absolutely correct. I think one of the things that makes this interesting, as long as you're running surpluses, you're not making these really almost Eurogame style choices of you're given 3 interesting things to do every turn and you can only take 1 action. In this case here, the one major constraint that you seem to be facing is alloys, because alloys get used to create military fleets, they get used to expand borders, and they get used to upgrade star bases. And so you have these competing priorities. You can, if you think about it, the colonization of a planet, I'm going to abstract away the food and the consumer goods, and that may not be a good idea, because obviously if I continue to generate 9, let's say in the year 2350, I am going to be crying. But with that in mind, let's say that I'm going to be generating enough surpluses to say that consumer goods and food are something that I can sort of take for granted. Well, what about alloys? Well, it's going to cost me, I think, about 100 alloys to make another base. God, I hate my mouse right now. So starbase. Oh, come on. So starbase is 100 alloys. Then a colony ship for that starbase is 200 alloys. So you're spending 300 alloys in order to be able to colonize a new planet. Which is essentially the cost of 3 corvettes. Or, what is this? It's not a third. It's like a sixth of my fleet cap. So that's not a trivial expense. On the other hand, if you can get that colony up and running really quickly, then you're in a fairly good position to be able to just generate more resources overall. And so if you're not threatened at the time, it might actually be a very good investment because, of course, you can use that bigger industrial base to generate more alloys, and that way you're going to be able to clobber people. So the decision is actually, in some senses, very similar to what you would make in the old game with just minerals. But you are actually able to build things in between and make some more interesting decisions. So you could also rely on the galactic market for consumer goods or any resources. Absolutely. And I have a feeling what I'm going to be doing is I'm probably going to focus on generating a lot of energy credits in order to make up the shortfall on my alloys right now. But either way, consumer goods and yeah, absolutely. I agree completely with that. I think for the purposes of early game exploration, I don't see a lot of cases where I'll be running out of consumer goods. I think for this species, food is eventually going to become a constraint. But I think probably the way I'm going to overcome those constraints are to generate a lot of energy credits and to buy more alloys. Yeah, no. I that seemed to be an extremely pleasant argument if it was that. And I mean, it's a new patch, right? Like I can remember, I'll give you guys a great example of something that drove me insane. When BattleTech came out for the beta, it was the hour that it was released, I streamed it, and somebody was busy trying to tell me how to play BattleTech as if it was the only way to play the game. Like, that I kind of feel is waiting for an argument, because that person had the exact same knowledge of the game that I did. But if it's just like, hey, here's what I think a dominant strategy with like alloys and food and stuff like that is, like, I think, I have a feeling that Paradox would feel that they've not designed the economy well if there's one like must-have good and one throwaway good. But my feeling is that probably early game alloys are going to be the new minerals. So it's harder to get the same Empire growth as before the patch, particularly on fleet strength. I think that's also very much by design. I think they definitely want to try and stop people from rushing, and I think I think they want people to have meaningful thoughts in terms of where does this expansion occur, how far can I expand without putting some investments in terms of my security, Uncle Norris. So I think you're onto something with that. Weeks after the RCA Metropolis' latest fruitful exploratory survey, shareholders xenologists are practically falling over themselves to publish their takes on the findings of on Upsoth 1. This fevered storm of in the scientific community has had some negative yet temporary impact on pursuits in other fields. Yeah, I do too. I mean, so any game is, I think, just simply more interesting if you, if you start thinking in terms of what the costs are for your decisions. There are uninteresting ways that you can do that and just create unnecessary sort of like overhead. So like you have to click through a lot of menus. That's not very interesting. But in this case here, it's like, well, so think about it this way, right? Like, let's imagine I was next to somebody right now. And we've got this choke point. And I'm like, okay, do I rush the choke point and get the thing for myself? Or do I build my fleet? Well, early fleets are kind of weak to star bases, so maybe I can get by with that. Okay, maybe. But on the other hand, with enough alloys, somebody is still going to be able to take that thing from you. And I think, early game, space is probably empty enough that you're going to be able to get by without ships, but I definitely know I'm going to be thinking twice about running with 3 for a while. So, for some reason, someone has towed an asteroid into a stable orbit around Cursa 1. The massive engine sections and braking thrusters can still be found on the surface, although they have long since been rendered inoperable. Whoever did this also mined the asteroid for minerals, but these operations were seemingly abandoned shortly after they began. Right, where are we going? So we're almost ready to clear that out. Oop, we've already got tradition. Let's pick that up. So normally I'd just start with expansion, but let's take a quick look at what we get here. So colony development speed increased by 25%. That's a pretty good argument because we're going to do colony ship fairly soon. New colonies start with an additional pop. That actually gives me an argument to hold off on the colony until I get my second tradition. But let's make sure that I actually want to go down the expansion route. Domination, it's a little bit harder for me to argue for because I don't have any neighbors, although I do like the fact that the clear blocker cost is reduced. Additional housing, additional enforcers. Oh, this is really interesting. So apparently the vassalized CB is just completely out of the domination tradition. I mean, I used to get this so that I could get some early expansion by conquering weak neighbors, but this actually seems like I can see some situations where I might start with this without military intentions. Prosperity mining station output increased by 10, building upkeep. I mean, these are neat, but it'd be great if there was something that gave me more alloys, so. Yeah, I don't know. I always just think, like, you know, another set of hands to produce things, especially if it's something like alloys, I think is worth it. And the longer that you get that early pop, the longer it's able to produce things for you, so. All right, leader lifespan. This theme seems... Time it takes for unemployed pops to demote to a lower stratum is reduced by 50%. I did not know that they could be demoted. Governing ethics attraction, pop amenity usage. Kind of hard for me to see how harmony helps me right now. I think supremacy is going to be a similar story. Diplomacy. Okay, well, we've got our diplomatic op. Is there really no vassalization or tributary on this? This might be a Megacorp thing. Market fee reduced. Oh, interesting. Insider trading market fee reduced by 10%. So that diplomacy actually seems interesting to these guys. I think I'm still going to go for expansion. You can always vassalize now. Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to hold back on my expansion plans. I am, however, going to build more things. So let's get some more of those sweet energy. And the real question is whether or not Upsoth or is it Cursa? Yeah, Cursa generate more things for me to go for. I think right now, because I've got a fairly healthy bank account, I'm probably more inclined to go for towards the science. Although again, there is an argument for me to build an agriculture district just to get my my food production up.
Outlier identified.
Some kind of unknown structures are floating in this gas giant's upper atmosphere. They appear to be using aerostatic lift to remain buoyant. Yeah, no problem, Captain Shield. I know it's late. I've probably got about another 45 minutes left in here. Okay, so trade value is a pretty good argument for Upsoth.
Future market survey complete.
And Cursa gives me some science, which is not bad, but it's not necessarily, you know... I think I'm going to have to see better things to unlock as a result of expanding out to Cursa before I take it. I also probably wasn't thinking very carefully when I said, oh yeah, I gotta make sure that I time things. I completely forgot that you can only do one action at a time, so my timing decisions meant absolutely nothing in that moment, and I feel slightly foolish. Despite recent skill improvements owing to accumulated experience, Governor Jasmine Maple seems to be approaching the limits of their abilities. Okay. Now, one thing that isn't 100% clear to me in these systems right now is how... It's not quite clear how you go from worker to specialist if you do that at all. And I'm okay in terms of my current situation. So we've got we'll have pop, which is growing in a moment, and then we'll have our slums clear out. So a small aerostat colony was found floating just above the atmosphere on Upsouth the 6th. It appears to have been self-sufficient and remains from several different species were found on board. As best as we can tell, the colony was some kind of social experiment conducted centuries ago that ultimately ended with the colonists massacring each other. We have downloaded all the data found in the colony's limited databanks. 141 society research. Yeah, that's my guess, but in terms of like the specialist thing, that it's just, you know, a person will fill a job when it comes up, but I don't know, because obviously all the stuff that I've been building has been in the lower classes. So we have one spot available, which of course will be cleared up in 24 ticks. And of course, with that additional pop, we'll unlock the additional building slot, which might give me the argument to, you know, build a spot for additional alloys.
Upscaling complete.
Planet Rhizome Capital has finished its construction queue. So, if I want another alloy foundry, it's going to cost me 4 energy, 360 minerals. It'll take 360 days. We get about 3 a month. So that's 30 months. That will definitely have plenty of time to get the alloy foundry. I suppose the question then is there a better argument for... So the alloy foundries are not that big of a worry, for the simple reason
The
that...
system has been surveyed.
Okay, so Upseth isn't exactly a top-tier candidate, but it does give me more of that trade power, in theory. Okay, so basically the thing that's now the most scarce are consumer goods. This'll turn minerals, which I have in abundance, into alloys, so pretty big argument there, and of course we already talked about that. Less of an argument for minerals into consumer goods, because I sort of already have... I have a smaller surplus of consumer goods. I don't have an immediate worry that I'm going to produce something that takes up more consumer goods. If I do, though, I need to start thinking of that. I feel like if I wanted to go for trade value and amenities, I would... I'm not entirely sure I'd want to build a commercial zone quite yet. So again, the Hollow Theater. I don't know if it tells me where the effect of the... I'm sure it's probably on like stability or something like that. There's probably some point where... This, by the way, is the big problem with me not doing the... Oh, hang on. Entertainment isn't a resource. It's entertainers. So unity and amenities. So amenities, high amenities will give additional pop happiness. So if I start ignoring that as the population grows, I'm going to have a less productive population. Good to know. All right. Not a great argument for precinct houses yet. I don't have unemployment problems. I don't have crime problems. Resource silos, no. I mean, research labs, not terrible. So I think probably the way I'm going to think about this now is more alloy foundries because, I'll actually just build that right now anyway. So more alloy foundries because that's going to turn...
Outlier identified.
There are signs of activity by an ancient precursor civilization on this inhospitable rock. So here's my thought process behind this. I'm going to be getting additional alloys from these workers. It's going to give them something to do. The next upgrade will very likely be civilian industries to handle... Well, actually, so I need to think about this. It'll either be civilian industries or something like a holo theater. Basically something to allow me to keep those amenities up. But at this point here, expansion is a fairly high priority, which means that I place a premium on alloys. And again, I've got a fairly large amount of energy available to me, so I should probably consider spending it in order to do my expansion. But I think right now, because there's a big surplus of minerals, which is okay. Obviously, I'm going to be using more minerals to build my my industrial base anyway, so I don't want to recklessly throw it away. But of course, an early edge on alloys is going to give me more options in terms of expansion, and particularly do things like build colony ships. So I'm reasonably okay with that decision that I've done. So we'll do colonization fever. We will start building the mining stations, and we'll get our colony ship underway. An internal market? The only market that I have is whatever we start off with. We're fairly early on in the playthrough because I talk a lot, and I've not done the tutorials, so I'm sort of learning by doing. Something about, this is the real trade-off that I get whenever I get one of these early press keys, is that people really like telling people how to play the game. And the reason why I like playing this game is because discovering how to play it is the exciting part. So if you guys could lighten up on that. I don't mind if you guys have conversations amongst yourselves about how the game works,
Outlier identified.
but I do not like being told what to do. If we can maybe find that
Upscaling
division,
complete.
I would appreciate it. Ship sensors are picking up an unexplained pattern on the of interference in the Piscus system. Okay, I believe this trade needs to be picked up by a starbase. So in this case, we'll take the construction ship and try to find something more meaningful to do with it. We don't have any expansion options, so it's all good, Kuna Forever. That's more of a general statement too. It's not the only one, and I also appreciate, like, it's a context thing. I appreciate that I've got more people than are normally in here who have probably never seen me stream before. So I think there's always a little bit of a learning curve for I mean, so again, like, there's some learning I need to do in terms of just what people expect from a game, because I appreciate that when I'm given a key for a game as an early preview, people want to see certain things. And the big thing is that I don't really read a lot of the patch notes. I really do like going in blind on these things because it gives me a chance to sort of sit down and think about what is this game trying to tell me? What is it trying to do? So I kind of come in knowing that I'll have less knowledge than some of the people who will potentially be watching. But every once in a while, when I start thinking the chat's sort of starting to get a little top-heavy in terms of the instruction, I just issue the reminder. So appreciate you taking it in the spirit that it was intended. And I also get, some people just don't like the way I do it, and in that case, obviously, I'm not the only one who got a press key, so it's usually just a matching problem. So the RCA Boromavis crew has succeeded in isolating a signal embedded within the unusual pattern of interference in the Piscis system. A signal is a song. A complex sonification of an advanced mathematical equation, to be precise, one that science officer Viola Life cannot seem to get out of her head. Who or what might have composed this song remains unknown, though its complexity infers an incredible level of technological sophistication regarding subspace harmonics. I, for some reason, really like adding extra articles inside of the Stellaris text. I don't know why, because I don't do it for any other game. The signal's geodesics suggest a point of origin from outside of our galaxy. Curious. Okay. Our construction ship is already on the way. One of the big challenges that I'm running into, and again, I am gonna... Okay, new mouse is on the way, but it is very likely it will not arrive until December the 6th. So I want to do a lot of Stellaris, but it is going to be very visually unappealing due to the fact that I have no control over my zoom unless, and this is absolutely something that you guys can tell me in terms of how to play the game, if somebody knows how to do zooming by keyboard, I would appreciate that, because I have not been able to figure that out for Stellaris. I figured it out for Crusader Kings. This would be an absolute game changer if I had a way of not having that happen. Okay, I've got additional minerals. I think I know that I'm not going to be able to build consumer goods. So in this case, I think I'm going to build another agriculture district. And part of this is just adopting a slightly naive view, which is, fix the thing that is the lowest. So in this case, these are all raw goods. I'm not really able to do anything about the diminishing consumer goods. Although, of course, in 3 pops, I'm going to be able to build up my my consumer goods factory again. I'll also want to find more sources of minerals, because that's going to diminish relatively quickly. But in this case here, I kind of want to focus on food as well, because food will wind up giving me other advantages down the road. So again, I'm sort of trying to follow a little bit like I do with science, which is to say, what's the early win that I can get here? And in this case, food will, I'm not going to rush to try and see this in double digits. But it's one of these things where I feel like if I don't pay close enough attention to it, I'm going to wake up and find that the investments that I should have been making earlier weren't done, and that it's going to create a bottleneck a few years down. So macro program. Okay, so it's no, page up and page down doesn't do that. So are they going to do multiple galaxies? I didn't know that. I know there was going to be, I know they were planning on doing espionage at some point. We know without a doubt that the thriving biosphere is not something unique to the Rhizome Capital. Both the scientific community and the public at large are eager to learn more about the various forms of alien life found throughout the galaxy. Efforts to catalog the life forms we encounter are already underway, but our xenobiologists have urged us to focus our planetary survey efforts on habitable, life-bearing worlds. A commendable initiative.
Situation log revised.
You got no solutions in Stellaris forms either, so in short, no. Alright, that's fair. I mean, so, just so you guys are aware, I'm not completely, out to lunch as far as the controls are concerned. I'm just contending with the fact that my mouse so specifically it's the scroll reel. I could probably take a screwdriver to it and get the thing working properly, but for the time being, it doesn't create too much of a burden, and I'm getting a little bit better at using the keys here. So my apologies if that's gonna burn people a little bit in terms of the visuals. I know, like, I like zooming in close on the planets and all of that, but for now, for the next week or so, I'm gonna have to do a slightly more boring view of the galaxy. Yeah, December 6th is the absolute latest, Laura Mipsum. So, can you hover over amenities on the planet you'd like to see? If it now gives 2% happiness, see if it converts to 5%. Absolutely. Uncle Norris, I'm sorry if that was a little bit, if it's a little too late, but I think I should have the same consumer goods as I did at the time that you asked that. Just let me deal with this anomaly here. The surface of this asteroid is littered with metallic debris. Most of it appears to originate from starships of many different designs. So we'll research here. I don't think it was consumer goods here. You wanted to see, sorry, let me just hover amenities. So amenities is at 4. Generates citizen pop happiness of 2%. So your model fits for at least my case here. I don't know if you've looked out at the further ends, because I definitely know they like they like their polynomials. So it may not fit as well. But in my case here, you hit it on the nose. Okay. I'm just trying to think about my easiest productivity gains. I will admit, so a lot of the stuff that I'm trying to articulate as much as I can about the economy, but I'm definitely thinking a lot about, it's like, when I think about, I should be focusing on mining. So, when I think, the blunt instrument answer is what I did here. Or no, hang on. This commercial zones. I did build another. Okay, yeah. So I built another alloy foundry. So that is the blunt instrument. Because in this case, I'm taking a lot of minerals and turning these into alloys. Now I feel okay about that because I've not had to use, I mean, obviously I'm getting a very large surplus of energy credits, which is not that great in and of itself. But in this case, I've sort of been able to achieve some of my expansion plans without having, so like basically the thing here is not a lot of my resources have been sitting idle, which is usually how I want things to go. But it is also a blunt instrument in the sense that I went from, somewhere like 20 or 30 in terms of minerals to 14. And I'm obviously going to want to be building more buildings relatively soon. And so one of the things that you want, and this is also true in, real economies, is you actually generally want productivity improvements. You don't necessarily just want to use up more resources in order to achieve more. You want to be able to use the same resources to be able to achieve more. And so there might be an argument that the better call for me in the early game to get additional alloys would not be to to build a new foundry, a new plant, if you will. Perhaps the better call would be to try and focus on that stability term. So if we take a look at the breakdown here, 4 people working in metallurgy are going to take up 24 minerals, and in return, I'm going to get 9 alloys. Base amount of 8, as it says here. 4% of this is going to be coming from the governor, 4.8 is going to be coming from high stability, and 5% is going to be coming from the empire. So if I just need a little bit of a boost, you can make this argument that, well, maybe what I should be doing is trying to improve my stability. And then in this case, well, what are you going to do for that? Well, it's, determined by overall POP approval, and then you find what causes POP approval, so on and so forth. So this is kind of what appeals to me about systems like this, which is that, it's a little bit like, it's like having a bad manager at work. Like, if they believe it's like, production is purely a function of the number of hours that you're working. So I want you to work an extra hour overtime every day for the next week, and that's going to make this all work. You're going to be miserable, and chances are that extra hour that you work is not going to be as productive as the one before. But a good manager is going to be like, okay, you're going to be good at this, you're going to be good at, or sorry, you're good at this, you're good at this. I'm going to take the work that you have, and I'm going to focus on what you guys specialize on. And then later on down the road, we're going to make sure that you get training so that you're good at X and Y. The immediate job gets done faster, and you become a more effective worker over time because, of course, you're getting the development in terms of your skills, i.e. your human capital. So I sort of like the fact that this game reflects that. To be completely honest with you, I'm not entirely sure that I could move the stability needle enough to be able to generate the alloys that I personally want. So like in this case here, essentially every 10 months I get either a ship or a new point of expansion. And again, because I have a fairly good little pipeline for being able to build these mining services, I'm kind of happy with this number at 10, because I sort of feel like I'm going to be able to get enough minerals to make up the loss that I put inside of myself. But this is an example in terms of a path that I didn't take that might wind up being a very productive one for me, which is maybe focus less on building factories that are going to consume all of my raw goods and focus a little bit more on improving what I already have by focusing on things like amenities and entertainment and so on and so forth. So sorry, I know I just missed a lot of chat on that, but again, it's my first steps. The first stream always does not have a lot of development in terms of it, but it does a great job of sort of setting the table for some of the future episodes in terms of the decisions that we make and where they pay off or they don't. Because obviously with games like this, you set things in motion and then 10 years later they bear fruit, if you will, and we get to figure out, was that the right call? Should I have done this? Was it a good idea that I put a little bit more into food, or should I really have focused on getting my minerals up so that I could build the infrastructure for things like additional mineral extraction and technology and whatnot? So anyway, you do wonder if the market might be a better option than a factory. I mean, so Zenzi, though, I will say, like, obviously I am spinning out a lot of energy and I'm not using it. Now, part of that is because I have a very much in-character species, which has two traits. Where's my species? There we go. Like, so these guys are ingenious and thrifty, so they get, they get bonuses to energy credits and trade value, and my trade value is currently spinning off energy. So, in this particular case here, like, I am really not leveraging my big, I'm really not leveraging my big advantage, but I am also sort of experimenting to see, well, how much can I make in autarky, basically? If I was closed off to the market, if I didn't want to, well, I guess this is an internal market, so this doesn't count exactly as autarky, but basically, if I were to be left to my own devices, how would I be able to do under this? And one important thing that I haven't talked about is I do have my cap on influence, so obviously I'm going to be able to expand to one more system. And then what I'm likely going to have to do is focus on building up my military. So the way that it's set up right now has sort of these built-in natural constraints that have gone in. So the factory still is it's a questionable decision, but it's one that I'm on reflection right now, I'm not unhappy with. So Isasen says your data cap period just ended and refreshed, meaning you can watch things at a slightly higher quality without worry. Yay! I'm glad to hear that. Actually, guys, sorry, I know I'm paused at the moment. I do want to take a quick minute because I've been fighting with Twitch on this, and I want to see whether or not I have transcodes. So it'll just take a moment. I still don't have transcodes. All right. That's unfortunate. I didn't choose slow breeders. Oh yeah, yeah. So slow breeders was one of the things that we considered for this species, but I don't think I. Okay, so for the benefit of those who did not hear the sales pitch originally, we should probably explain what's going on here. So again, it's an in-character sort of a playthrough. Although I didn't get to do as much for this one, I didn't get to do as much of the the in-character dialogue, as you will. But the reason I couldn't pick slow breeders in good conscience is the flavor text. Rhizome Capital is pleased to announce that it has successfully completed its first round of seed capital. Our plants are already running at full capacity, getting ready to offer you the finest goods and services the galaxy has to offer. Tax season got you down? Our bean counters at Deloitte are licensed in all jurisdictions and legal systems. Need help with housework? Rhizome Robotics' solar-powered photosynthetic assistants are ready to attend to your every need. Under the sage guidance of Ebenezer Hawthorne, we'll make you green. Rhizome Capital. Leaf growth to the experts. So, basically, the idea behind that, especially with the motto of, where was it? If somebody has the Twitter account, I remember this. So I've set up a Twitter account for this species, and I'm going to be trying to sort of expand this playthrough out a little bit. So if the motto is leaf growth to the experts, I can't exactly make them a slow-growing population. So we went for non-adaptive instead. But yeah, so if, some of these decisions are suboptimal because it is a fun way to play. Maybe at the end of the stream, I'll show you guys some of the other ones that we've made in the past. But in this one here, I very briefly considered slow breeders, and I'm like, nah, can't do it. Doesn't work out. So our colony ship has found a rare patch of open ground in the jungles of Yamal Prime and made planetfall. The landing site is surrounded on all sides by lush vegetation, and sentry drones have been deployed to guard against predators. The ship has been permanently converted into an administrative headquarters of the new settlement, and its reactor core is in the process of being removed so that it may serve as the colony's temporary power source. Hundreds of small tents and prefab shelters have sprung up around the former starship's massive hull as colonists began to disembark in large numbers. The first shareholder city on an alien world. A great day for the Rhizome... The Rhizome Capital is not what I mean. A great day for Rhizome Capital. All right, I lost track of what's going on in my empire. So we've got a construction ship building mineral resources. That's good. Let's take a look at Yamal Prime. Okay, so they're colonizing. That's going to take 4 years, so there's nothing that I can really do about that. What are we going to be competing against? So we've got impassable mountains, active volcanoes, and toxic kelp. But it'll be very good for generating electricity once this is all taken care of. So this asteroid was evidently used as a junkyard by someone at some point in the distant past. All manner of discarded machinery and metallic refuse has been deposited inside the asteroid's weak gravity well, being slowly pulled into the jumble of debris that now covers the surface. There is nothing of particular value to be found here, but a lot of the metal could be salvaged by a mining station. We should recycle what we can, so we get an additional 3 minerals to A199, which is here. It's a little far out. Yeah, I don't know if this is really telling you anything that you need, Kuna Forever. Minerals seem like a trap in this path. It's tricky, right? So it does, like, I think I'm kind of digging this idea of raw goods and refined goods. We go, Karin. Hello. Not quite at the end. We might only have about 15 minutes, but let's say I'll do a large debrief at the end. And we'll do our best to find another Stellaris stream to host. So, but yeah, so like the thing is that like I'm prioritizing minerals knowing that so the thing about minerals is that it allows you to build your infrastructure. So if you're not smart in terms of how you're using them, you're going to find that you're sitting on your hands waiting for an opportunity to build those refined goods. And then, you'll be sad. But on the other hand, if you follow what Stellaris has basically made you do from version 1, and it's like minerals are the end all be all, and it's quite literally a guns or butter decision of like, do I build the Grand Armada with which I will conquer my enemies, or, am I just gonna balloon out until I start, rush every single system that I find, bump into a wall, then I'll just dump as many minerals as I can into building a fleet and kick the guy's ass. The decisions are a little bit more sophisticated right now. You need to think a little bit about your supply chain and make sure that the things that you make are in a bit of balance. And I think that's a really cool trait. I think one of the things that I like is that there's there's obviously the meme about people really wanting Victoria 3, and personally I'd like to see it because I got into Paradox games with Crusader Kings 2 around the time that Charlemagne got released. So I've only really been able to appreciate modern Paradox games, ones that have ever-increasing focus on UI, and sort of the apotheosis of this is Stellaris, because it's a really well-laid-out game, and the fact that the tutorial has been updated to account for the changes in the economy, all of this stuff is great, and it really shows that they are investing in onboarding players so that they can get to that point where they're enjoying hundreds of hours in the game. There was a bigger point I was going to make on that. Oh yeah. So I would love a Victoria 3 because it would finally allow me to play a Victoria that I sort of can wrap my head around in a more effective way than Victoria 2. But the thing is that they've kind of already done it with this game. I mean, I know huge fans of Victoria 2 are going to say that I'm speaking heresies and all of that, but like, the mindset that makes Victoria 2 appealing to me is kind of on display here, but it's retained all of these interesting characteristics of Stellaris. So, like, I don't know. This to me is the low-cost way that they can achieve that bit of fan service. So, all right. So I wanted to pause on this for a second just to talk about my thought process behind this. So, the two things we have. I also need to read this flavor text a little bit. So, a new life awaits our citizens in the off-world colonies, a chance to begin again in a golden land of opportunity and adventure. With the help of an aggressive marketing campaign, the less fortunate elements of our society will be flocking to our colony ships. If you have not seen Blade Runner, please do yourself the favor and rent it. That is what the blimp says as it flies over the city. So, if I want additional pops, an additional 10% is definitely not something to get too upset about. Alternatively, I can reduce my Starbase influence costs by 10%. Now, I am a little bit inclined towards Reach for the Stars here. And my main reason for that was that I'm ever so slightly bumping up against my influence restrictions in terms of my expansion. And my expansion options right now are going to lead me towards mineral resources. There's sort of an indirect path through Piscus to Hithram, which will give me some additional minerals. But this thing is sort of an investment in my ability to acquire more raw goods. Whereas this one is sort of a play for refined goods in the sense that more pops are going to be able to work on them. And the big thing is that I have a feeling that I'm going to run out of minerals a little bit faster than I think. once I start getting those pops. So I may not necessarily go down the path. A courier network I don't need at all because I'm not even remotely close to my admin cap. Starbase upkeep would be nice in terms of my well, not that much in stations, to be honest. I don't think stations cost... Yeah, it's just ships that cost those. So in this case, I think, given the fact that influence is so hard to obtain, and Zenny Aurora, thank you very much for that follow. So in this particular case here, I'm going to go for Reach for the Stars, just because influence is the most scarce, and that's going to be the thing that's keeping me from going. It's not to say that I don't want population growth, it's just that I can obtain population growth through other means, such as food. Admittedly, slightly different ways than food, but that's kind of how I'm thinking of these things here. All right, I probably should start thinking about building a fleet as well. So this guy's going to be finishing his...
Research actualized.
Oh, ancient warring tribes, historical notions in conflict, now unified in empire. We must not, will not crumble. All right. So as usual, I always sort of consider this as on an opportunity cost basis. Off-world trading companies, 3,000 research, so the most costly out of the options here, 117 months versus 78 months. So that is a pretty big cost. Now, of course, what's interesting here, we do get the building in the form of hydroponics farms. Will give me additional farmers. And then there's Hydroponics Bay, so I believe that's for star bases. And that will produce 3 food. Reklo, thank you very much for the follow as well. You work in a small board... Oh, I did not know that about you, Ego. Congratulations on that. Does food affect pop growth in the same way as before? As far as I can tell, Uncle Norris, no. It is a set resource in the game. I'll make my research decision and I'll show you roughly what I know about it. Okay, so additional trade value, not bad. That's additional energy credits, but I have a surplus of energy credits right now and I've not used it for purchasing alloys. So it's a little hard for me to say that I should spend, 40 extra months. So really this comes down to hydroponics farms or pop growth speed. And of course, pop growth speed will give me the advantage of the biological path as well. So in this case, genome mapping, especially because I found 10% for the traditions reasonably appealing. I think this is probably my best sociology option. And the other reason for that is answering Uncle Norris's question, which is, and I have a feeling that Five Gods has already said this inside of chat. Actually, hang on. I think you need to unlock something before, don't you? There is... Or it's a planet thing. Decisions... There we go. So on a given planet, you spend a base 1,000, growth encourage modifier added for 120 months, giving the following effect: population growth speed of plus 25%. If you just hover over food, you now have the limit of 10,000, so they've gotten rid of the bonus entirely. That was sort of the first indicator that it doesn't work the way that it did before. One other thing to keep in mind about it, though, is another trade-off that you face with food is the construction of your colony ships. So if you're not generating enough food, you're not going to be able to man colony ships, although of course I've colonized all the available systems in my area. So I suppose the better way to think about this now... So this is a big thing, like, I think this version of the game handles food production a little bit better, because you do actually have a reason to see your food go up into double digits that's more than just sort of a % bonus for additional pops. This sort of seems to be something in terms of saying is like, I built this stockpile for a reason and now I'm going to use it. I know food used to be the thing that you'd like bribe the nomads with, the marauders with, which is fair enough, right? Like, marauders have to eat, and threatening people seems to be a great way to get food on the table. But I find this a little bit more satisfying personally. So, but yeah, so far as I can tell, it doesn't directly, the existence of food itself does not confer a population growth bonus, which I think was the essence of your question, Uncle Norris.
Upscaling complete.
Alright, so I've built all my stuff. I do want to expand out, so the reasoning that I've got here, I've got a guaranteed 3 here. So the idea here is I'm going to spend 100 alloys to gain 3 minerals. Alternatively, I can spend 200 alloys to gain 3 minerals and 7 physics. Thing is that physics is my highest research. It's not that I can't use more physics, I definitely can, but in this case I think the benefits of moving to Rookbat are slightly higher than my alternatives. Another argument might be to go to Cursa, which gives me some of the engineering, which I think is my lowest. It is. So there's a bit of an argument to sort of supplement my weakest research over here, but in this case I am still looking for these inputs to production, so... Remember the days when food was planet specific? Listen, not everybody's developed, you know, we got the tin can, the other species got spaceships. I think that's a perfect reflection of the production possibilities frontier and the fact that, you know, aliens just followed a slightly different growth path. You remember when you colonized a tomb world with robots and they became pacifist farmers? Sorry guys, I'm just going to enjoy a sip of my caffeinated beverage.
Research actualized.
Alright, what do we got? Alright, so more energy. Definitely something that I was looking for. Modulated fields allow for increased production and improved energy yield. Alright, well, I'm pretty much automatically going to go for the 5% research speed, so... and I am going to break... I'm going to break my self-imposed restrictions. So in this particular case here, we're going to pay 98 for Corvettes. I think we're going to empty out the treasury and buy ourselves a fleet. And this is mostly just because I want to see how the market works. Okay, so that's 130. So that's 1 ship. 2 ships. 3 ships. And I think we're gonna keep something in reserve. It also looks like the price changes, so unit prices seem to be jumping around a little bit, which is the way it should be. Oh damn it, I forgot how much I bought. Fortunately tells me. Okay, so I got 3 ships worth. Now, the reason why I'm a little reluctant to like just jump into ship production, of course, is that you also need to pay for maintenance costs. So the longer I hold off, the less my alloy production gets chipped away. But in this case here, this seems to be a fair balance. I already know that I'm going to be able to produce basically up to 3 star bases, and that influence is going to be my cap. So I figured I might as well start getting a bit of a start getting a little bit of a defense fleet. So, despite recent skill improvements owing to accumulated experience, Chief Executive Officer Ebenezer Hawthorne seems to be approaching the limits of their abilities. Oh, what a shame. He's our grand and sacred founder. He's only age 38. You've got so much more to learn, Ebenezer. Yeah, see, you know what? This is one of the funny things about sectors. Sorry, yeah, I was not bothered by sectors. I understood them as the reason why the AI was kicking my ass earlier on. But that's just like my opinion, man. Like, obviously people really did not like sectors, so it's good that they listened on that. Okay, against my better judgment, I'm going to try and zoom out because this really is going to decide how oh, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. Okay. What we're going to do instead in the... Oh, I'm actually at time, but I need to work out a flight plan for my exploration. This is obviously a nice little choke point. But where do I want my future expansion to come from? Well, this is probably an obvious spot for me to gobble up. I think I really need to do something about untangling that knot over there. Alright, well, I'm gonna cheat. I'm just gonna head out here and then we'll decide which way we want to go. As far as this guy, we still haven't built... Oh, that's right, I sent this guy on like an eternal research mission. So, you know what? I'm gonna change my plan. I'm gonna build a starbase here, and that's so I can build a starbase on Hithram next. That's because this guy's gonna be researching forever. I should have kept that in mind, so... You like sectors saved? Yeah, that was one big thing about sectors. And yeah, I don't know, like the biggest thing was I always thought it was a very like straightforward way that the game said, you know, you do not need to micromanage everything. Like you have helpers for a reason. And it just seemed to follow a very logical path in terms of once things started to get unmanageable, that was usually when you were hitting your planet cap. But what I would sometimes notice is that people would like go out of their way and get traits to allow them to have more core worlds. And then they'd complain about having to manage so much. And I'm like, but you opted into this. Like there's no reason to have done that. I also want to make sure that I've actually got people... Okay, so I've got people who are not working. Is there anything that I should be doing to encourage growth? Probably not. If anything, I need to be messing at the higher level on my edicts and such, but... I think I'm good. Still don't see much of a reason to start a recruitment drive. So I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna sit down and let the population naturally grow. We're halfway through our colony, and we've got one last bit of research. So engineering gets a little bit of a boost. So advanced instrumentation allows for the study and practical application of physical systems at nanometric scales. And we will pick. So we have all expensive options. Planet build speed is actually something that I think is kind of useful for me right now. Oh, nope, but the build cost is too good. Alloys are precious, so... Yeah, well, Lorem, it's also because it's an ellipse galaxy, I think, so it's... I have a feeling that this is going to be true for everyone. Piggy banks for war. You chose this. You don't like to give control to help. Well, this is just it too. Like people have different play styles. Like, you know, there are games where like I really like digging in deep in terms of what people are up to and doing. So, you know, it is pretty much a... I did not realize that ships were built that fast. I think we can afford another Corvette. I should probably also consider building a station here, but I think that's pretty pricey. What is it? Wait, this isn't the button. This is an imposter. Yeah, it's a little rich for my blood, although obviously I could spend money to obtain it. But I think we're going to continue this path of Piscus and Hithram, just so I can get my hands on those minerals. I might even consider taking this science ship once they've had here. Excellent, thank you. Build me research. I think once we've moved this ship up to here, we might even double back and just see what's going on in this this bottom level here. Because, like, honestly, if I build a you know, a base here, I'm in, you know, I'm not in terrible shape for defense on the right-hand side. It'd be nice if I could have a little more context for the galaxy by zooming out, but again, that's that will be fixed on the 6th by the latest when my new mouse comes in. So, Sorry, Mr. Holgren says those people you've heard called dick stabbers, if going out on a date with prom queen got them 10 points and stabbing themselves with the dick gave them 11 points, they'd stab themselves every time. I have never heard of that, but that is a very unexpected but equally delightful example. Anyways, guys, I don't want the numbers to die away a little bit too much. I know my slightly more ponderous style is not for everyone. So there's two things that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna advertise myself a little bit. There were some people who were interested earlier on about some of the other species that I've done, so I'm gonna do a small tour through that. I am going to host another streamer, and it would be wonderful if we can, give them a big host, big hello. So if you guys can bear with me for a little bit, I 100% commit to sending you guys off to another stream. But I need to wrap up a few loose ends on my end here, and this is mostly just sort of along the lines of the in-character playthrough that I'm doing, as well as some impressions on the overall game. So I haven't really been following the dev diaries inside of this. The first thing that really caught my attention, other than the obvious steps... Oh, actually, here's a question for you guys while I am doing the tour of the species and that. How many people in chat know about Alexis Kennedy, author of the Horizon Signal event and his game Cultist Simulator? Because if there's enough people inside here who are familiar with his game Cultist Simulator, I'm going to show you something that I'm very proud of. And if you don't know what Cultist Simulator is, it will mean nothing to you, and I should probably shut up about that. But okay, Mr. Holgren just gave a very enthusiastic yes. So first of all, I definitely can't give formal impressions of Megacorps, and I think most of you guys will be interested in playing it yourselves to decide that. But the thing that caught my attention was not actually the headline feature of the mega corporations, but it was actually it was this reworking of the economy. I love this idea of sort of raw goods being refined into raw goods being turned into advanced goods or refined goods. And the fact that this population management and all of these decisions that you need to make about how the planet is growing, there's a couple of things that really caught my attention that were unexpected about that. One, I'm thinking a little bit more about what my overall goals are. They create interesting tensions. So do you want to expand your empire with those alloys, or do you want to be able to defend your empire? Obviously, if you just go out and expand your borders, but you still have 3 ships around the time that you meet somebody who did bother to put the resources into alloys, you're gonna have a bad time. Especially too because it's relatively expensive to produce a starbase, and so chances are if you're skimping on defense, you're skimping on starbase defense as well. So I think that's a really interesting trade-off. Another interesting side effect on this is that minerals have become much more interesting because you are making decisions in terms of your industrial base. Obviously, you can't just pursue minerals and expect to have a good time. You need to think about how you're going to turn those minerals into the things that you need to produce your Grand Armada with. But it's a little bit more of a minor thing, which was like, I can remember times when I'd play early on in the game and I'd sort of be sitting around waiting until I hit a certain level of minerals and then I would build something. Whereas this time I sort of feel like I'm jumping from planet to planet or system to system building things, because they seem to have divided the minerals in an interesting enough way that you've got all of these trade-offs that you're doing at each layer of your economy. And I think that's something that we're going to wind up exploring in some of the subsequent playthroughs as well. And then, of course, finally, you get to play mega corporations, and those are just inherently interesting. So, and it looks like we do have a few people here who are familiar with Cultist Simulator. So I will show you the species that I made for this. I will also show you a Cultist Simulator themed option, which I don't know if you guys all know will be available inside of the game. But yeah, the way that I'm playing this, I am playing an entity known as Rhizome Capital. It is a mega corporation with the civics of brand loyalty. This mega corporation has fostered a great sense of brand loyalty among its internal consumer base. Its catchy corporate slogans can be recited by nearly everyone. And franchising. This mega corporation relies heavily on franchising. Subsidiaries share a great cut of their profits with a corporate overlord in exchange for a license to market their goods under established brands. Now, this is a more militaristic sort of an option here, but the reason I did this is actually an in-character reason. And basically, as an hero says, there seems to be a lot more to think about in 2.2. It's no longer where you care about the no, it's absolutely more. It's a lot more sophisticated than that. And I like it because it does promote different styles of play. I think I have a feeling that what a lot of the decisions I made this time around, I have a feeling that a lot of this will change depending on my starts and what my neighbors are. And in the end, I think more variety inside of the game is what always keeps me coming back to it. So in this case, the reason why I went for those character choices is the biography for Rhizome Capital. Rhizome Capital is pleased to announce that it has successfully completed its first round of seed capital. Our plants are already running at full capacity, getting ready to offer you the finest goods and services the galaxy has to offer. Tax season got you down? Our bean counters at Deloitte are licensed in all jurisdictions and legal systems. Need help with housework? Rhizome Robotics solar-powered photosynthetic assistants are ready to attend to your every need. Under the sage guidance of Ebenezer Hawthorne, we'll make you green. Rhizome Capital. Leaf growth to the experts. So, what I'm doing for this particular playthrough is this is very much a in-character sort of a run. As soon as I knew that you could open branches as a Megacorp. Oh, damn it, I did the wrong... that is not the Twitter. That is the correct Twitter. So there is an in-character Twitter associated with this. I will be trying to update it at least once a day. And yes, I have built a species entirely around the pun from the Mega Corporation mechanic. And I will make no apologies for that decision. But yeah, I am trying to have a little bit of fun with this one. So that means that I'm going to be making some suboptimal decisions in terms of the way that the game is played, but I really do like the idea of playing this plant corporation. And I'm going to be trying to make some changes in the actual playthrough. I am hoping that as I continue to play this, especially between now to December 6th when the game is released, I am hoping to put some extra sort of special... some special touches inside to make this a little more exciting for for people who are following this little story. So anyways, I did promise you guys a quick view. So for those of you sort of wondering why I make such a big deal about the species, every time we've come and played Stellaris, it's always been an opportunity to make new species, so this will be a chance for me just to go over some of the old ones here. And then as the final promise, for those of you familiar with Alexis Kennedy's stuff, you made a Vine choice by purchasing a Rhizome product. Thank you, Eyes of Sin. But yeah, so to give you an idea here, here's some of the things. All of these are species that we have played on stream. So the Oklar Citizen State: Democratic, Distinguished Admiralty, Citizen Service, Militarist, Fanatic, Materialist, Intelligent, Deviant, Wasteful, and Adaptive. Have you done your part? Originally a slogan designed to sell consumer goods 2 decades into the war that engulfed Glira. It was adopted by Aldig Den Bardir to unite his people to press on in the Great War. While the boundaries did not change, the Oklari united behind his leadership until he was world president in all but name. Declining to serve a second term, he was followed by his 2 sons. Under their rulership, the Oklar have finally taken to the stars, but as the Great War recedes into memory, can the society's martial traditions be held by a mere advertising slogan? What I did for these ones, the Commonwealth of Kirill and the Kirillian conglomerate, I had the same species and just two different societies that emerged from it. So the Gak spawned on Kirill, a planet long thought to be inhospitable to all forms of life. The unrelenting sun and scarce resources forced the creatures that managed to survive to adapt and cooperate with each other. This cooperation gave birth to commerce, civilization, and now spaceflight. Through their efforts of making the most of what the planet has to offer among all members of the society, the Kirill have no concept of a zero-sum game and instead see each trade through all of its facets and do not consider it done until both parties have achieved their ends. So the idea here is that basically an ethic specifically designed towards considering the well-being of all, which is how I sort of justified the thrifty decision, although that means something different in this playthrough, given the environment in which they were brought in. And so we have the Kirillian conglomerate, which I did now convert into a megacorporation at the beginning of the street. On the deserts of Kirill, there were those known as the water drinkers, who greedily sought any oasis and claimed it as their own. The Goxi ethic demanded that as members of society, they too had their place, but as time went on and the population began to stretch its resources, the excesses of the water drinkers forced the elected representatives with the choice of exile or for some, or starvation for all. The water drinkers were sent off and to found a new home on the planet Yan. Not forgetting their origins, the water drinkers have named themselves the Kirillians, considering themselves the true sons of their homeland. The Kirillian ethic is one of advancement at any cost. The market must not be impeded, and all must rise and fall from its operations. The Hazar Collective. This one we didn't get to play for very long because there was a new patch that came out, but at the dawn of Hazari FTL travel, their home world of Pavogan was embroiled in a world war, driven over disputes as to the colonization rights of the planets that they hoped to discover. One Hazar sought to move past the petty squabbles that held the Hazar back for millennia and would unite them once and for all, not through military conquest, but through achieving the final stage of their evolution. Through his network of contacts, he placed the virus in key cities around Pavogon, and as the armies claimed their victory, they were infected and turned to serve the swarm. The Hazar are finally united in purpose, and the colonization may begin. So the idea here was that at the end of the war, these viruses were released, and these Hazari creatures were taken over by the fungus and turned into a hive mind. The Mishar Cooperative, I need to redo these guys with the new megacorporation mechanics. The Mishar were a society of early industrial age intellectuals who harnessed early automation technology to build an egalitarian society on the frontier, free from exploitive labor. They were next heard from when encountered nearly a decade later with reports of the vast wealth and towering structures of the colony. Their social experiment having been proven, the Mishar spread their ways across Oros. A Mishar child's first friends are its mechanical servants, and generations have passed without the conception of physical labor. Now emerging from their technological cocoon, the Mishar are bringing their mechanical companions into space to enter the last phase of their development. Not by choice, Lorem Ipsum. There should be some more variety brought through. I think I'll skip over some of the ones that are a little more similar. I've tried to put some variety inside of these, but Tecarus Multisystem, we had a really fun playthrough on this. Unfortunately, I don't get to show you the servitor class for this one, though. So the planet known as 01 was home to a monastic order known as the Savelli, dedicating themselves to move beyond the pursuit of transitory knowledge and learn truths eternal. To that end, they fashioned a servitor race dedicated to the accumulation and caretaking of transitory knowledge in all its forms. The Savelli passed beyond this realm, and their servitors, the Tecarus, were left to fulfill their mandate. Time passed, 01 was covered in ice, and the caretaker finally understood its purpose and went out into space to account for and incorporate all organic life. So if you go to the servant race for the Tecarus Multisystem, you find out what actually happened to the Savelli. So the idea here is that this was a spiritualist race that actually made the machines to deal with the stuff that is of the physical plane. They died, and the Tecarus Multisystem brought them back. And so essentially they're sort of cyber zombies as a result of this. So I have to do the Mandasura order. I didn't actually play this, but this was one by request for the Eyes of Sin. So this is an Imperial one. One of the galaxy's greatest paradoxes is why a planet as beautiful as Laborius Primus should be inhabited by a species utterly indifferent, indeed hostile to anyone seeking to witness it. The Mandasura are as beautiful as their homeworld, and yet the only reliable account of this species or planet is the savagery with which they protect this gem. The Mandasura seemed only concerned with inward perfection during their reportedly short lives. However, the galaxy may finally be able to bear witness to these enigmatic creatures, as reports from Liaboris Primus indicate the Mandasuran ships exploring their system. The Mandasura may finally be prepared to make their debut. Now, if I could redo this, I would actually choose Inward Perfection. I don't, for whatever reason, I didn't think to do that at the time. All right, we've got the Blessed Alari Grand Duchy. From each according to their ability, so it is written on the walls of the first temple, and so it has remained. Alari society is one of exchange and service. The rigid hierarchy belies a very active social mobility, with the bright amassing great fortunes, and the slow losing it all and being reduced to slaves. The Grand Duke oversees this dynamic system, and all seek to emulate his wisdom and shrewd dealing, lest the next generation erase all the gains that have been made. Everyone and everything has its place, and it will find it all inside the Blessed Alari Grand Duchy. I had to change this one around because of some of the mechanics in Megacorps. And I think the last one that we've got is the Valon Polity. This was the last one that we played before we did Rhizome Capital. So the Valon Polity is founded on highly democratic principles and very closed minds. Vailgar is home to a very active public discourse that follows highly predictable and conservative lines of thought. Despite this, it has also produced some of the galaxy's finest scientists. When confronted with new concepts, Valon will process the thought to make it orthodox, but once it has done so, few can deny the tremendous feats of ingenuity that result. The creatures from Vailgar present the galaxy with a paradox, a race of highly capable scientists and explorers who mistrust and devalue everything they find. Uncle Norris, thank you very much for that follow. So this one was I wanted to make space cats. And in this case, I decided that they were racists, but egalitarian. I also wanted the tension between this. So I love the idea of these things that are actually very, very smart, but because they are very rigid, they have to, they waste a bunch of cognitive energy trying to make stuff fit in their worldview. And once they do that, they're actually very good at being able to manipulate things. So basically, this is one of the things that I love the most about Stellaris, is every time I play a new game, it's a chance for me to take an idea and just run with it. And admittedly, for this one, it is something as dumb as opening new branches. Of course, I'm going to do a plantoid species as a Megacorp. But of course, doing the Twitter account is a special thing. So hopefully you guys found that interesting. This is, again, you're not going to find top level playthroughs in terms of skill on this, but hopefully there's an interesting science fiction story for you. So for those of you who like the Horizon Signal and know about Alexis Kennedy and Lottie Bevan, also known as Weather Factory's wonderful card-based narrative game Cultist Simulator, you may be familiar with this name. And we will change the flag to something a little bit more appropriate. And the ruler. Yeah, it's got to be a dude. There we go. And finally, government and ethics. So you go criminal heritage, and you put a point in spiritualist and gospel of the masses. And congratulations, you've got the subversive cult, the mirror of glory. If you want, you can create Cultist Simulator cults in Megacorps. So I hope that was a worthwhile payoff. Those of you who know what Cultist Simulator is, please explain this to the people who don't. So, well done, Mr. Hulgren. What a great way to finish off. So, all these civilizations have cool. Thank you very much. And these ones are puns. I don't know. I am going to put my all into Rhizome Capital. If you guys are not sold on the pun yet, give it a few streams, and I think you'll like some of the stuff that's coming down the pike. All right. I think that addresses everything in chat. Thank you for dealing with me. Thank you for dealing with my slightly more stately style towards Stellaris. Let's try and find someone. I don't know. I don't actually watch a lot of streams. So hopefully... well, you know what? It looks like there's only one person playing... Looks like there's only one person playing Megacorps right now. So I personally have not seen Sir Tristan live, but I have a feeling a few of you folks would have been watching him anyway. So let's do a quick raid. You don't need to use this this raid message because I don't know... sorry, let me make sure I've spelt this right. So, you know, it's up to you as to whether or not you want to use that quote or not. But he is the next highest streamer, and he also has an early preview of Megacorp. So for those of you who are going to be coming back and going on to see the rest of the Rhizome Capital story, Mr. Holgren, thank you very much for that follow. Looking forward to seeing you. I am going to do my best to stream every day. Red Martian, thank you as well. I'm going to do my best to stream every day between now and release. The fact of the matter is I'm not going to be able to because I've got a lot of pressure at work, and just generally it's not great for me if I don't take some breaks from that. So you can check Twitter when I'm going live. Normally it's around 7 p.m. Eastern time, except on Fridays. But I will try and do as much Stellaris as I can. Monday is our normal Paradox day. The only day I won't be doing Stellaris for sure will be Wednesday when I do Cultist Simulator. So... it's a preview copy, Gatling Goon. The game will be coming out on... the expansion will be coming out on December 6th. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for that. I've talked too much. Let's give Sir Tristan a nice big surprise like you gave me. Thank you for that, and we'll hopefully see you next time. And thank you to Kuna Forever as well. Have a great night, guys. Thank you so much. And sorry for those folks I haven't said hi to. Kintara666. Again, all of you, thank you so much for that. We'll see you again soon.